All right. See who's up at this time of night. This is a little bit late. Glenn Sheehan. Looks like I see Just a Mexican. I love that name. We're gonna be asking a question, seeing who's up this time of night. Why do blacks, African Americans, why is it that blacks so rarely vote Lib or vote GOP? What is it about the Republican Party that just for some reason does not seem to resonate with African Americans? Now we know historically the Democratic Party was the party of slavery. After slavery and emancipation was ended, and good evening to you, Defend 3747. Just having a little late night spiel. I want to kind of pick you guys' mind. I'm up, you're up, let's talk. Why, considering that the Democratic Party supported the Confederate South, the party of slavery, after Lincoln freed the slaves, the Emancipation Proclamation, the Democratic Party continued supporting Jim Crow laws and oppressing blacks. So why is it in 2022, why is it that African Americans, black folks, overwhelmingly vote Democrat? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. If you had to give your spiel, why do you believe Democrat, or better yet, African Americans overwhelmingly still support the Democratic Party despite its history of oppressing black people? What has happened with the Republican Party, whereas African Americans just do not seem to be attracted to the GOP in large numbers? Now, I understand a lot of folks believe that the GOP is beneficial to African Americans, particularly Trump, who suggested, what the hell do you have to lose? You should support the GOP. But when you look at even Trump's numbers, and his numbers were better than a lot of Republican presidents before him, he still came nowhere near 50% with African Americans. So, why is it that the African American community, as far as your own personal analyzation, your own personal research and what you have observed, what is it about the GOP that does not seem to resonate with African Americans? Okay, and C-Pen is saying it's because they don't really know the history of the parties. Okay, C-Pen, I understand where you're going with this, but let me just say this. You're grouping up an entire race of people and suggesting that they all do not know the history of the party, or at the very least, a large majority of them, because Democratic candidates, liberal candidates, generally get at least 65 to anywhere between 80 and 90% of the black vote. So you're suggesting that, for the most part, most African Americans do not know history. Just want to kind of sum that up and let you know how much you're stereotyping the group. There are African Americans that teach history. There are black historians. So coming at it from a point where blacks do not know history might be generalizing it a bit much. Why don't Democrats talk about social cleansing? Orca means, what is social cleansing? Okay, you may have gotten me on that one. I'd like to know that. And I see your Let's Go, Brandon Danny. Okay, let's see what happens in 2024. I think you'll do well in the midterms. The Democratic Party now tries to win the hearts of the disenfranchised. Okay, then and that's coming from Winston Naturally Smooth. I love the name. If you believe the Democratic Party is trying to win the hearts of the disenfranchised, why don't the Republican Party try to do the same? I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Changing hearts and minds, pressing the flesh, kissing babies, shaking hands. Defend 3740. It depends on what party has inclusive policy agendas for individuals like you and me. I like that answer, but for some reason, most African Americans do not put the GOP in that category. Democrats are the human embodiment of AIDS. I don't know where the hell to go with that comment. That is so broad. But let's see who's up at this night. I'm going to go ahead and have this chat. The promise eyes of the left.
Hey,
Hey,
hello.
yeah, hold on one second, Archimedes.
Sure.
Trump exposed the empty promises and lies of the left towards the black population. Then why did he get so far under 50%? Orchid, good
Hi.
evening. How are you?
Good, good. Social cleansing is what they do in Colombia and Brazil. Well, it's well documented in Colombia and Brazil, but I think it happens here in America too. Because Mike Tyson the other day was saying that rich people sometimes hunt poor people on their estates, like homeless people. And I believe him on that one. Because I've had some homeless, I'm going to say homeless white friends, like four of them, and they said that the times, not just the rich, but like frat boys have rolled up on them and beaten some of their friends to death, or they've been hunted by gangs, or so on and so forth. So it's
Okay,
not just
so
homeless.
who? Okay, so when you mentioned Democrats talking about social cleansing, who exactly is being socially cleansed, and
Uh,
who is doing the cleansing?
undesirables, if you look it up on Wikipedia, social cleansing, it's basically undesirables in the local community. Now, I'm not using the word undesirable in my own personal context, but like if you're in a community, like if you're in Jamaica and you're an LGBTQ sex worker, and they find out that, they might socially cleanse you, for example. Or if you're
What? Okay,
a
what
homeless
happens?
person,
What happens when a person is socially cleansed? Are they arrested? Are they
I'm sorry.
murdered? I mean,
Yeah, basically yes. I was just trying to be polite about it or euphemistic, but that they get unalived, because sometimes I don't want to get you banned or I don't want to get myself banned by using
okay,
words that might be considered too offensive. So
okay. I
yes, they
don't.
get
Okay,
unalived.
well, in regards to answering your question, why is the Democratic Party not talking about social cleansing? Is probably because they do not know or they're not aware of it. I have not heard anything like what you're
Well,
talking about.
see,
Whereas
because
you're talking about,
like
go
I've
ahead.
seen I used to live in Asia, and among, like, when I would see the homeless, sometimes there's some very aggressive schizophrenics, and they would vanish because you have two
Okay,
different sets of
okay,
cops.
okay. I'm fine with other countries, but you're suggesting it happens here.
Right, because it's not like a legal policy, it's a phenomenon that happens in overcrowded cities with like a really high population. It's not just like it's like a legal policy so much as it is just a phenomena that happens almost in every big city. You know what I mean? The mafia used to do social cleansing on rapists or sex offenders and stuff like that in their community,
Okay.
for
All right.
example.
Well, I can't really speak on that because that's something that even in the far left circles, even with among civil rights leaders, which is where you would certainly expect to hear this, there's no chatter of this going on to any significant degree. So I don't know where else to go with that.
I feel like they take it's an important issue for me to talk about because I've had friends who tell me they were homeless and they felt like they were being hunted before they were unhomeless, like in certain neighborhoods. And I think what it is like the Democratic Party is not intellectually honest and they try to do divide and conquer tactics with sensitive issues like that. So, like,
Okay.
if you take Black Lives Matter and you take Trans Lives Matter and you take other issues like that and lump it all together, many of those people are suffering from social cleansing. Like, I think
Okay.
George Floyd was basically hunted down by Derek Chauvin for some type of reason, like
Okay.
not just racism, but maybe also something to do with like crime, for example,
Okay.
that they were both involved in.
All right, fair enough. Okay, well, look, let me get back to the actual topic. That's something I'll have to do some research on
Okay,
before I can go
okay.
too deep into it. So, but I do appreciate you coming through, man.
Yeah, coming from another country, this is more familiar with me. But I mean, I wanted to share this concept because it all connected into my brain. I'm like, oh, all these people are victims of social cleansing. They've all been
Okay.
hunted by either gangs
All
or rich
right.
people or cops, something.
Okay. Well, allow me to do some research. I can't speak on it until I do some research.
Okay.
So,
Hey, it was good
and we'll
talking.
go with
I'm
that.
glad this didn't turn into a shouting contest like so many political debates that happen
It
on here. Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough. It never. Wait, folks, it never will turn into a shouting contest here. Anytime you can have a liberal talking to a sea of MAGA, and this is a MAGA friendly audience. I prefer MAGA, by the way. I make it clear. So you'll never have a shouting match here. So the question we're talking about this evening is why do African Americans rarely vote GOP, which is what you saw. Now, I saw someone in the comments did state that Trump got more votes from the African American community than any other Republican president, and that is absolutely true. But he came nowhere near 50%. So based on your own personal observation, why do you feel that Trump and certainly Bush and Reagan and George H.W. Bush before him, what is it about the GOP that seems to just not resonate with African Americans? And I'm saying this knowing that the Democratic Party was the party of the Confederate South, the party of slavery. After the Emancipation Proclamation, they also were the party of Jim Crow laws and oppressing blacks. So, what is it about that party, the Democratic Party, that just seems to resonate more with African Americans than the GOP? Looking at some of the comments, because we have never had a black leader that made people comfortable voting for a Republican Party. Big Red, I cannot disagree with that comment. We've never had a black leader that made people feel comfortable voting for the Republican Party. And I see after his comment, Kurt 911T, you said it's handouts. And no, Tim Scott, J Stewart 5487, Tim Scott is not going to be the guy, and I'll tell you why. After what happened in Charlottesville, and I understand a lot of folks did not see any insulting issue with good people on both sides. I know my audience. I love my audience. This is a MAGA audience. So I understand when he said good people on both sides, he was just talking about law-abiding protesters. But African Americans overwhelmingly disagreed with how Trump handled what happened in August of 2017 with Charlottesville. And Tim Scott remained a senator serving with Trump during that time. So when you ask, well, would Tim Scott be the guy? Probably not, because there were African Americans calling for him right and left to step down or disassociate himself with Trump, or at least condemn Trump for how he handled Charlottesville. And Tim Scott stood by him. So I'm just going to tell you that. The left immediately began to call him names after that. Well, yeah, exactly. I agree with that. The community teacher, you're saying racism is why, and I see your profile picture. I like that. I used to have that on a medallion in high school. And by the way, folks, get my likes up. It's late, I understand that, but some of you patriots out there can tap the screen, get your boy to 5,000 likes. Let's make it happen. Okay, in regards to racism, I understand talking to a GOP audience, this is something that is either going to be very unpopular or you're going to certainly disagree. But make no mistake about it, yes, African Americans do believe that there is a lot of intolerance for African Americans in the Republican Party. And that's saying that even though you do have the Ben Carlsons and Tim Scotts in that party, only Democrats agree with that Charlottesville BS. Click 5678. What about Charlottesville that Democrats agree with? I don't get that point. J.C. Gordon Johns, there is, period. Okay, are you talking in regards to racism in the GOP party? Okay, you're saying there is. Elaborate on that. Is there a such thing as a smart liberal? Because it no longer seems like it, says Steve Lennon. You can look at liberal policies, and I could totally understand why, if you're on the right, you would disagree with liberal policies. But if I look at someone like Barack Obama, if I look at somebody like Joe Biden, or hell, even if I look at AOC, and I know she's not popular in this audience, and I understand that, but anyone that can make it to the position of Congress, and certainly senator or president, there's no way you're going to tell me they're an idiot. Do you know how much work it takes to become a senator, to become a president? You look at Joe Biden. I understand you guys think he's not in his faculties. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Can't read without a teleprompter. How many Senate races has that guy successfully won in a row? I mean, we talk about term limits in here all the time. You cannot do that as an idiot over and over and over again. You show me something where you can convince thousands of people to favor you for decades in a row. You'd be like your company's top salesman if you can do that. So I don't buy that any politician at that level is an idiot, whether they're on the right or the left. Now, you may disagree with their policies. I'm not expecting a MAGA audience to agree with AOC or Biden or even Obama. I understand that. But the notion that these people are idiots is ridiculous. You need to be rich and easily controlled to win. Angie B 28, Obama was neither. Obama was not rich when he was elected president. Carol Moseley Brown, another senator from Illinois, was not rich when she was elected. AOC was a bartender when she ran for Congress and won. Now, I will agree with you 100% that being wealthy absolutely makes the job a hell of a lot easier, certainly if you're connected. But sometimes just simply presenting a better package than what's in there can help. Or sometimes it's a matter of luck. Like Trump, for instance, was wealthy, but Trump did not win because of his wealth. Trump won because he was offering a better package than what folks was up against. A lot of folks did not like Hillary Clinton. A lot of folks did not like lifelong politicians. And Trump was able to give folks something that they preferred. I believe that Trump would have probably been fairly successful had he been a lot less wealthy because of what he was offering. What did AOC say that was a better package? Creole Williams, she ran against an incumbent, and a lot of folks did not like the incumbent. That's what she did that was a better package. She came with, how many of you guys in here support term limits? How many of you folks in here are suggesting that President Biden, or candidate Bernie Sanders, or hell, some people even say Trump is too old. Sometimes just simply being young, new, and fresh blood and energizing can be what folks want. He beat Hillary. What did that say? NGA. Good evening, NGA Bro Coleman. He beat Hillary pennies on the dollar as far as yeah, exactly. Trump did not spend anywhere near the kind of money that Hillary did, and she lost. Bloomberg running for mayor in New York is another example. So money doesn't always help. It usually does. But if you offer the right shit and the other person is hated enough, you might be able to do it without money. So the question we're asking this evening, though, what is it about the GOP year after year that just does not seem to resonate with African Americans? And I've said this before. The Democratic Party historically is the party of slavery. After the Emancipation Proclamation and slaves were free, they continued being the party of oppression, Jim Crow laws, all the way up to 1964 when the Civil Rights Act was passed. So what is it about the Democratic Party in modern times compared to their awful history? What has made African Americans come to that party and want to be voters of the Liberal Party? They overwhelmingly vote liberal, at least in probably the last maybe 10 presidential elections. What is it about that party that really seems to resonate with African Americans? And what is it about the GOP party that African Americans have a problem with? We need a solid black leader that everyone can respect and feel comfortable with. I like that comment, Big Red. How did you feel when Joe Biden said you ain't black if you didn't vote for him? I'm genuinely curious. Jay Stewart, good question. And I saw it before. Somebody else had me diverted, but I did see you asking that before. It just was a poorly worded comment. I'm gonna put it in the same category as defund the police or Mexico's going to pay for the wall. These are poorly worded comments that the opposition can easily take and use against the person saying it. But at the end of the day, everybody knows what they need. We all knew Trump was not talking about getting the check from Mexico to pay for the wall. We knew what he was talking about. We all knew that the liberals were not talking about having America be police free. We knew what they were talking about. When Joe Biden said this, it comes off as horribly insensitive. But essentially what he was saying, and here's your humble correspondent giving you my interpretation of it. He was suggesting that when you look at the way Trump is treating you guys and looking down on you, if you're dumb enough to vote for him, you must not even be a black person. That's the way I took it. Now, is it insensitive or is it inappropriate for him to say? 100%. And of course, if I was you, if I was MAGA, my favorite audience, my preferred audience, if I was MAGA, I would have used the shit against him too. But African Americans, for the most part, knew what he was saying. Now, there were folks like Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club that called him out on it. I believe Charlemagne even interviewed him on it. In fact, that's who he said it to. That is who he was talking to when he said it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to hurt with African Americans as much because, fortunately for Joe Biden, his opposition was Trump. And Trump has said a lot of anti-black stuff. I mean, Trump has said a lot of things that are at the very least racially insensitive. And if you look at it on the other end of the scale, a lot of blacks will say they are outright racist. So if Biden was running against, maybe a more moderate Republican candidate, I think it would have hurt more. But really good question. Really good question. You just gave a serious spin cycle. Do click 5678 elaborate on that? Let me know. Let me know. Tell me what I'd spawn on. I'm giving you my honest opinion, and I'm willing to accept yours. I don't mind criticism. You know, every broadcast I make it clear. Tell me where the hell to get off. Tell me where to shove it, but elaborate on your point. In regards to check out 2000 Muse, says Michelle, what does that says Madeline? Listen, I've watched 2000 Muse 4 times, and we've had 2 or 3 shows here on 2000 Muse. Every time it comes up, I always make sure to hold up my notes. I took lots of notes from watching 2000 Muse, and I've given my spiel on 2000 Muse several times. Really good. I enjoyed the documentary, by the way. I did enjoy the documentary. Watched it 4 times. No, he hasn't. You're full of shit, says Truth is Painful. I love the name. Like I said, folks, no snowflake zone. I do not run from comments. When you say no, he hasn't, suggesting that I'm full of fecal matter, that's fine. I don't mind the insult. But what are you suggesting when you say no, he hasn't? Are you suggesting that Trump has never said anything racist? Is that what you're suggesting? Elaborate, and we will talk. In fact, let me make it clear to you guys. I do take folks in the box one at a time. I do not put more than one person in the box because I don't want folks talking over each other. I want to make sure you get your chance to talk, and I can respond in kind. But if you want to come on the box, particularly you, sir, who told me I was full of shit, I invite you right now to come in the box. Tell me I'm full of shit. That's fine. Elaborate on your point, and we can chop it up and talk about it. Let's do it like gentlemen. You see my name. You know who I like talking to. Come on in the box. Holla at your boy. Are you a Satanist? Oh my God. No, I'm not. I'm not even very religious at all. Just quote 2 proven things, says Lewis Miller. Let me ask if because I have to repeat this often. I would really be grateful if you would go to YouTube, hopefully after the broadcast, but if you want to go now, you can, and type in Trump has never said anything racist, space, the handsome liberal. And you'll see there's a video I did showing you what he said, not with CNN, not with MSNBC. You'll see Trump himself saying it and admitting it to Bill O'Reilly. And Bill O'Reilly is criticizing him for why he said it. That's about as clear cut as something racist that came from Trump as I can give you. But like I said, if you want to come in the box right now, feel free to do so, and we can talk about it. Thoughts on Candace Owens in office or Larry Elder? J Stewart 5487, that comes up kind of often. And just like Big Red said in the comments, whereas you guys need a African American candidate that folks would feel comfortable getting behind, those 2 are not it. Candace Owens, I think she's a very intelligent woman. She does her job very well. She's a talking head, similar to what I'm trying to be. And she's really good at it. And I'm not saying that everything she says is false. However, it's all negative. Everything she says, or the vast majority or overwhelming majority of the stuff that she talks about, subjects that cover the African American community, it's negative. She paints the African American community in an extremely negative light. Now, is there a lot of crime going on in Chicago, St. Louis? Yeah. But what about the folks who graduate from college? What about individuals like myself, no criminal record, 3 college degrees? She don't seem to talk to those folks. They don't seem to concern her. It's all of the negativity. She even spoke in regards to George Floyd. She had a lengthy video during the time when it was really in the news a lot, and now she has a documentary coming out now. And it's all horribly negative stuff about George Floyd with about 2 minutes of stuff about Derek Chauvin. It just looks biased. Okay, the box is open. We do have Real Trucker Jeff coming in here. What's going on? Real Trucker Jeff, what's up this evening?
Hey, Handsome Liver, how you doing?
I'm doing real good. Good.
Good. You know, well, I mean, it's I don't think we have a lot of argument actually in the point that you're making, but you know what I mean. I
Oh,
don't think we disagree very much, but let me
oh,
ask you this
before you
though.
hang on. Before you give me your point, you are MAGA, right? You did vote for Trump both times, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
I'm
absolutely.
just asking because
Yeah,
I want to make sure the audience knows where you're coming from. But go ahead.
yeah. I'm just something I'm curious about. Okay, so if we look at the way our government is structured, it's a little bit in depth, but I'll do it real fast for you. So the way that it's structured, if you look at, we have two senators per state. You know, to overrun a veto, it's 2/3. There are a lot of things in our government that are pertaining to a republic, right?
Okay.
Would you agree with that? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, and then the alternative to that is one man, one vote, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and that's democracy, one man, one vote.
Okay.
So, right. So you would be more on the side of that one man, one vote, right? Of a democracy.
Well, are you talking about the electoral college versus the popular vote?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's part of it.
Okay.
That's real.
Let
So
okay.
that's really narrows it down. But yeah,
Okay.
you
Well,
can put it that
if we
in those terms, sure.
if okay, if we narrow it down to that point, I am more of a fan, and I know being a liberal, I should be on the other side because most liberals are, but I support the electoral college, and the reason I say that is because I do not believe Wyoming should be ran the same way New York is. I believe even though it has fewer citizens in the state of Wyoming, they should be able to keep some form of sovereignty. So they should have equal representation in Washington. So I'm fine with two senators per state. But go ahead.
Right. Well, that's how I can identify you as a traditional liberal, right?
That's fine.
Right.
That's
Right.
fine. That's
Because
well, the traditional liberals were the party of slavery, as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, that's fine. I don't mind.
uh, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that. Like, I don't. You know, I don't. I don't. Yeah, no. That's a different. That's a different topic. That's
Okay.
not derail. All right. So. But okay. So, but you agree though. Okay. So, okay. You are a traditional liberal in terms of you want to preserve certain things about our founding documents, right?
Yeah,
True.
yeah, I believe the founding fathers laid the blueprint for one of the best countries on earth. However, there were obviously folks who did not want to honor that blueprint. For instance, the founding fathers talked about all men are created equal, and then obviously there were folks from that time who decided to say, well, no, we need to make some of these people become 3/5 of a man. But the blueprint was laid very well. It's just greed and racism and all kinds of other stuff and sexism made some folks go against it. But the blueprint itself is pretty damn good. Go ahead.
You know, one thing though, I think you're misconstruing the 3/5 doctrine. I think you're misconstruing that
Okay. Tell me how.
because I mean the purpose of that was to reduce the power of the southern states because black people couldn't vote. So they didn't. So this was a northern compromise. They didn't want to have that overwhelming amount of authority to states based on population, including people that couldn't vote. So they said, well, we're not going to take them one for one. Okay, 3 to 5 is the compromise.
Well,
So that was to reduce power. It's meant to
I
reduce
mean,
power
it,
in the South.
we can go with your way technically, but at the end of the day, neither the North or the South wanted folks like me to have equal treatment under law. So it really, I mean, you what you're talking about, weakening the South and things like that. Yeah, I can understand that, but at the end of the day, I was not safe in anywhere. I was not totally going to be treated as an equal anywhere. And they had different greed and evil ways of why they wanted to do it. But I do believe the founding fathers, the blueprint they presented, had it been truly honored correctly, and if it had
Well,
been honored correctly,
sure.
there would not have. If had they honored it correctly, the 3/5 would have never came up because I would have been an equal
Oh,
citizen, and there would have been no reason to do that. So, but I get what you're
right,
saying.
right, right. But I mean, and I think one thing that we don't learn from history, and I think that we should though, is there was really two different ideals that started this country. You look at, there was the settlers in Plymouth, and then the settlers in Jamestown. The Jamestown, they were just about money. They were enslaving people. That was their whole thing. But you have Plymouth, the folks that settled in that area had a completely different idea. And I don't think they looked at black people or Indian people or anybody else as high or lower. I don't believe that personally, because I think they were religious people. And I think that's lost. That's getting lost to history. Tim, I believe this. I know there's a lot of ugliness and a lot of grievance, and we could talk about all that, for the next decade or two. And I would agree with you, and I would, you know what I mean. We can go down that road. I don't dismiss it, right? But I have a hard time believing that these religious people, who ultimately were where the abolitionists came from, where that spirit and idea and a lot of the things that from the founders that they put in there were intended to be abolitionist, right? So I
Okay.
don't
All
believe
right.
that these. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't mean
I
to. I
get
don't mean to
your. Okay.
rattle.
Okay. Let me start. I get the spiel or the direction you're going. You believe they thought differently. I'll just say this: at the end of the day, it does not matter what they believe because they did not do enough to change what was going on. I'll give the same speech Martin Luther King often says: is that all it takes for what is it, evil or injustice to prevail is for good men to stand by and do nothing. So regardless how they felt, they didn't do enough. They didn't stand in a way enough to help. You see what the Confederate South was willing to do to defend their own beliefs. Had those folks you're talking about, maybe if they stood up and was willing to fight that hard for us, things may have changed, but they didn't. So had we only had those folks you're talking about to depend on, we would have never been free. So it really doesn't matter what's in their hearts and minds. They're not doing enough to make anything happen.
No, that's legitimate. Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. But okay, so here's the thing though, where the and yeah, that's totally legitimate. I can't refute anything that you're saying, obviously. But
Thank you.
the yeah, the thing. Okay, so the thing that was springing off from though was the difference between the ideals of Democrat versus Republican, right?
Okay.
So, and I don't, I mean, I'm not dismissing your point. Like I said, we could talk about that for the next 2 decades or more. You know what I mean? Like, I like you. You're an awesome person. I like how you bring people together. And like I said, we don't have an argument about that at all. And we
Fair enough.
and there's I mean, there's so much there that's bad history that we should expose ourselves and our children and everybody else to, and the country and the world, right?
Okay.
We yeah. I mean, I think we agree about that, right?
Right. Right.
But okay, the point, the reason I called was just to differentiate between Democrats and Republicans, right? That
Okay.
was my initial. That was my initial argument.
So
So
so let me ask you the original question. Why do you believe African Americans, despite the history of the Democratic Party being so oppressive to blacks, why do you believe in modern times the blacks, African Americans, folks like myself, overwhelmingly support the Democratic Party?
I can say it really simply, and it'll be, it's not going to sound great. Okay, but there's a phrase in, let me say it, and then they'll get deeper into it. But there's a phrase in politics that goes, if you uh, rob Peter to pay Paul, you get Paul's vote, right? So meaning that people who collect money from the government, that's Peter robbing Paul, right? Paul took my money, that's the government. He gives it to other people, they're going to vote for Paul, right? So
I get this. I get what you're saying. I don't know if I'm necessarily buying it, but I get what you're saying.
right,
You're
but I
you're
mean, so
you're saying that you're essentially saying that African Americans vote Democrat because they're giving them stuff.
I mean, but well, really, I think that a lot of Democrat voters have that ideal that they're going to choose Democrat because they want to get stuff. It's not just a black people thing. That's okay. So that's the point. It's a lot broader than that. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's exclusive to black people or African Americans. That's I'm not saying that at
Okay.
all.
All right. I mean, because the reason I've heard that before and appreciate that, Sith Emperor. Thank you there. Very, very kind of you. I hear that often, and then because my general counterpoint to that is when folks say, "Well, African Americans voted Democrat because they get free stuff." There's a lot of very wealthy African Americans that are not getting anything for free. I mean, for the most part, the entire NBA, the entire NFL, or at least 70% of the NFL and a large majority of the NBA are African Americans, and they overwhelmingly support Democratic Party. They're not getting anything for free. They don't qualify for welfare. Oprah Winfrey is a long-term Democrat. There's no way she's voting Democrat because she's getting free stuff. So there has to be more to it because if you suddenly became wealthy and didn't need the free stuff, the Democratic Party should turn you off as an African American. And it doesn't. The African Americans at all levels, whether they're a high school dropout or a PhD candidate, or they're homeless on the streets of Los Angeles, or they're extremely wealthy in Beverly Hills, they still, no matter what demographic you go, African Americans overwhelmingly vote Democrat. And the free stuff argument does not apply to that whole group because clearly all demographics of African Americans are not getting stuff for free.
No, absolutely. It's a combination of things. It's also the Democrats poison the well too, right?
How so?
Anything. I mean, anything that we might disagree about. I mean, okay, if we talked about race issues or whatever, we would probably. I mean, what the weather was on Tuesday, whatever. We could disagree about things, but on the left, they're quick to say, "Oh, that's because I'm racist, because I'm white." You know what I mean? Like we almost
That's a
can't
fair point.
disagree with each. Yeah,
That that
we
I,
almost
I
can't. Right, we almost can't
I'm
be
agreeing
at
with
odds
you on that.
without. Right,
But
right. I mean, it's true. It's unfortunate, and it's what I mean. And I'm glad you acknowledge that that's an issue because it happens all the time.
yeah,
We can't let that get in the way of us having an honest dialogue. And I'm glad that you recognize the fact that that does happen.
right. But
You know?
let me tell you, I would say that if I had to give you my spiel on it from your humble correspondent, that is what I refer to as politics. And I say this all the time on all of my broadcasts. If you are a right winger or conservative, my favorite audience, if you debate with liberals, eventually somebody's going to call you a racist, which is what you're talking about. Doesn't mean it's true. It's just a word they use to demonize Republicans, like what you're talking about. However, if you are a liberal and you debate with right wingers, conservatives, eventually somebody is going to call you a socialist. Doesn't mean it's true either. It's a word that is used to demonize. If you can stick the word socialist or racist on somebody, you essentially harm their career and their chances of success. This is both sides do this. It's just you notice the racist part because that's what they're sticking on your side. But everyone from Barack Obama to essentially every liberal candidate that runs for office is a socialist, just like every right winger is called a racist. That
Well,
doesn't mean it's
well, I,
true, but both sides do that.
yeah, well, sure, but I think I think you're wrong about something in that. Okay, if somebody calls me a racist as a white person, you're going to notice that it goes one way. That attack, that ad hom only goes in one direction, right? So you're going to notice
Okay.
that. That's what I'm saying when I say they poison the well because
You
for
don't think
African American.
you don't think throwing around the word socialist irresponsibly poisons the well?
I mean, look, the left is embracing socialism nowadays. So
No,
a different argument.
no,
I mean, they really are.
that's not true. Let me tell you this. That would be just like the left saying the right is embracing the racists. I mean, you can wear a Confederate flag or an Auschwitz T-shirt around right wingers and have no problem with it. We could throw this back and forth, is what I'm trying to tell you. And I'm not trying to say either side is right, but I'm saying that any argument you can make in regards to how the right or how the left throws around racism, I can throw the same argument at you for socialism because you're saying
Right.
we
True. True.
embrace.
True.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. But the question was, why do I think African Americans vote Democrat? And I said, and my answer is because there's a couple of reasons, but one of them is the well is poisoned, right? You as an African American can't vote Republican because you associate the Republican Party with racism. Now, not you necessarily, but a lot of
Right.
African Americans do,
Okay.
right? So that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
I get what.
So yeah, so it does work. It does work both ways. But I'm just answering to that specific point. There's the fact that the racism character, that's ad hom, and then
Well,
also there
and
is
I
the
got a and I have a counterpoint on that. I've been debating with right wingers and conservatives and now MAGA, but particularly when it comes to conservatives and right wingers, I've been debating with right wingers for at least 20 years. And I've heard plenty of left wing candidates referred to as racist. For instance, Joe Biden. I get folks in here all the time. Somebody asked me about the "you ain't black" comment. Oh, Don, I like that. Thank you. That was good shit. I like that. But I get folks. Somebody asked me about the Biden saying "you ain't black" statement, not in this broadcast right now. So if you're suggesting that Democrats do not vote for the GOP because they view them as racist and they've been, tricked or they've been, convinced that the GOP is racist, why does those same racist diatribes not work on someone like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton? Your side has called all of those folks racist too. If why is calling those Caucasian people racist not working? But if you call someone like Trump or Bush a racist, it seems to work with African Americans. What is the difference? What's making one stick and one not?
well, you would have to explain that to me, brother. I don't get it myself. I don't get
Okay, exactly.
it.
Just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure you heard that. But look, let me move it on. I got somebody else I want to bring on, and I will talk
Right
about
on.
that. But
Yeah.
let me move it on.
All right. Hey, great talk. All right, brother. Have a great one.
Absolutely, always good to hear from you, Jeff. Always.
From you. Let me see here. Now I agree with you, Carl. I'm looking in the comments. Who was that was trying to get in? I think you dropped them for some reason. But in regards to what you said, Jeff, what you were asking in regards to, I would have to explain why Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden is not viewed as racist by African Americans on a large scale like Trump or George W. Bush would be. First thing is the pride and heritage stuff. Overwhelmingly among the African American community, they see the stars and bars as a racist symbol. I get my audience. I understand my audience believes that that is all about pride and heritage. It's about your, the little guy fighting against the big guy and taxation and states' rights. I understand all of that. I'm just trying to explain when it comes to African Americans, I'd say probably 85 to 90% of us view that stars and bars symbol as a measure of hate towards African Americans. Despite what it means to you, you have not been able to shake what it means to that group. And no doubt about it, the stars and bars is overwhelmingly accepted within the GOP. If you go to any GOP meeting, particularly in the South, that flag is down there somewhere. So that's one reason why it doesn't stick on, say, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, but it would stick with Bush or it would stick with Trump. It's because they're hanging around that type of stuff. So it's things like that. And then let me just put it to you from this aspect. Just think of anything you've heard African Americans complain about in a significant portion of the community, whether it's their claims of systemic racism or their claims of police or whatever. No matter what it is, for the most part, any issue that is really concerning African Americans, the Republican Party tends to be on the opposing side of that issue, and the Democratic Party tends to be in favor of that issue. So, and I'm not here to say the issue is right or wrong. I'm just telling you, from an African American standpoint, they're going to go with the party that tends to support their concerns, just like you would in regards to the party that protects the sanctity of life, protects Christianity, protects your gun rights, you're going to go with the party that seems to favor your core issues. The Republican Party does not favor the issues coming from African Americans. They tend to believe, like Trump did, my issues, what I'm doing with the country, is helping you out. Forget your core issues. Look at what I'm doing for you, and you should focus on this. And that never works with most voters. It doesn't matter what your core issues are. You're not probably going to be happy with a politician telling you to forget your core issues and pay attention to what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is better for you. Okay, looking at the comments real quick. Lobo, the only thing that shifted is your smooth. Okay. Cyborg 041, you said it represents racism. I'm curious to, oh, you mean the flag. You're talking about stars and bars. MLK family seems to like the Republican Party, though, says Big Red 77. In regards to whether the family of Martin Luther King likes the Republican Party, yeah, I'm sure some of them do. But then again, we could say the Reagan family, the Bush family, the Mitt Romney family, the McCain family, none of them like Trump. So, I mean, what are we getting at here? I mean, just because a certain group of a certain family does not like a party, what does it mean? That maybe they have issues in the King family in 2022 that they believe better resonates with Trump. Obviously, Martin Luther King was very religious, so protecting the sanctity of life is something that a lot of African Americans can even get behind. So there could be reasons why, but I'm just telling you, when you look at the core issues of African Americans, the GOP is usually on the opposing side of that stuff. Thoughts on Malcolm X and how he viewed liberals, says, what does that says? Medea, I can't pronounce the name, but I don't know a whole lot about Malcolm X other than the fact that he would have been more of a libertarian. He was not in favor of politics at all. He did not trust the white race, period. And for the most part, during his time, the majority of politicians in this country, even to this day, that remains true. But in his time, even more so, they were all white. So I don't. Malcolm X was not a fan of either side. So, but I get your point. And also, you got to keep in mind the Liberal Party, or certainly the Democratic Party, up until the Jim Crow era, was anti-black or was not in favor of African Americans. So he would have been around doing some of that. So maybe he believed that folks like John F. Kennedy or JFK and Lyndon Johnson working with Martin Luther King, maybe he thought they were snake oil salesmen. I've seen this party throughout the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. You don't like us. Just because you got JFK and he's willing to talk to Martin Luther King, I don't trust him. That could have been his take. I'm just giving you my spiel on it. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying it could have been that way. Malcolm X changed after he went to the Hajj, and he was gone soon after that, if I'm correct. The Republican ideology is not bad. The Republican people are bad. Wow. Wolf Pixter. The Republican ideology is not bad. It is the Republican people that are bad. I guess I'd ask, what is bad about the Republican people, the people of the party? I'm just asking that you elaborate on that. And you are right, Daniel Allen. You said Martin Luther King had a woman problem. So many of us do. And you are correct about that. And they were trying to use that against him. The fact that he was sleeping with prostitutes and things like that and cheating on his wife. The FBI was really looking for an angle. I believe Hoover was in charge of the FBI at that time. They were looking for an angle because he was gaining so much ground in regards to not only gaining African American civil rights, but he was embarrassing the nation as a whole, because a lot of the sins of the South, they were trying to keep that stuff quiet. And he was making it so that the nation, even folks up north, was finding out what was going on. So they were trying to find ways to get him. And if I'm correct, Martin Luther King, even when he passed away, he was on the FBI's terror watch list. So they essentially put him on the same list as we now would put Bin Laden or somebody like that on. That's how much they hated that guy. They actually deemed him as a terrorist. How do we move past the left versus right rhetoric and fix real problems, says Trucker of 30 years. Wow, that's a lot of time. Hope you got a bunch of safe mouths there. It's very difficult because there are core issues that have no middle ground. Second Amendment, for instance, if you are a true Second Amendment proponent, you believe in phrases such as shall not be infringed upon. That does not leave any room for negotiation. If you're a Republican in the state of Oklahoma, for instance, where you believe life begins at conception and anything after that is murder, which is a law that they just passed, I believe, yesterday, a bill. So now that you cannot abort a baby in Oklahoma, in that state, after conception, which is essentially a complete abortion ban in the state of Oklahoma. There's no middle ground on that. So how do you fix left versus right? Well, when nobody's coming to the table, it's almost impossible to fix it. And if your policies are that solid, where there's no wiggle room, there's no way to fix that. The only way you're going to get Americans to come to the table is through war. Whereas something happens in the foreign theater that is so horrible that we tend to put any domestic issues on the back burner, such as like World War II or what happened on 9/11. The little things we're fighting over in America does not matter when you start thinking that our entire nation may be in danger. But the minute the war is over, we go right back to where we're at now. 81 million voters. Where are they at? Buyer's remorse. I'm not defending Biden. There's a lot of buyer's remorse for Biden. So I get the notion that, where the hell is the excitement for Biden? Keep in mind, even during the 2020 election, there was not a large crowd attendance or a large amount of support for Biden. There was a lot of dislike for Trump. So you got a lot of Republicans, for instance, that voted against Trump, the never Trumpers, I believe you guys call them now, the rhinos. They're not going to show up at a Biden rally. They're not going to go around wearing Biden hats, but they didn't vote for Trump. You think Liz Cheney's going to show up at a Biden rally? What are the chances of Liz Cheney voting for Trump in 2024? My guess is Trump may have a hard time even getting a vote from Mike Pence at this point. But you're not going to see them at a Biden rally or at a Kamala Harris gathering. They're not going to be there. But they may vote for her. You never know. MAGA are man groupies. Double love 777. You never min switch. What is a man groupie? No, there is not buyer's remorse for voting for Biden. Jeff Clark likes trees. That's not true. There's no way you're going to get me to ever believe that every liberal paying $4, $5, $6 a gallon for gas has no remorse for Biden. There's no way that I'm going to believe that everyone is paying that type of money at the pump did not think twice and say, maybe we voted for the wrong guy. There's no way you're going to get me to believe that every liberal looks at our gas prices and our inflation and goes, well, that's not Biden's fault. That is just not true. I understand there are folks who think that way, but there are a ton of liberals that believe that what's going on right now, Biden is at least partially at fault for it. And his poll numbers among liberals and Democrats say that. Look at Biden's poll numbers when he got elected in 2021, or when he took office in 2021, rather. When he was inaugurated, his poll numbers were in the mid-50s. He hasn't seen the mid-50s in a very long time. And I'm talking about among Democrats. Biden is raising gas prices in Europe. How? I've changed my mind. I do not think Trump is going to run. Whoa, Don. You do not believe Trump is going to run in 2024. What caused you to come to that conclusion? I'm really curious about that. Wow. Okay, the moderate will not put up with the economy the way it is. That is true. But will they be willing to go back to dealing with Trump and his comments? Remember, Trump did not get voted out of office because of a good economy, cheap prices at the pump, and great job numbers. The metrics under Trump were pretty darn good. Trump got voted out when you talk to liberals and folks who voted against him for things that he was doing as a human being, the way he was performing personally. That stuff is still there. So it becomes an issue of, are you so disgruntled with President Biden that you are willing to bring back what you voted out? Because it does appear, as if my favorite audience, you know who I love talking to, it does appear as if you're going to send that guy back to the White House or back to the top of the ticket. That's why I keep saying oftentimes, you need to send DeSantis. But you're not gonna hear that. You're not gonna listen to me saying that. I understand the loyalty to Trump is very strong, and I don't expect that to happen. Who's Trump going to run against? Dems are in big trouble at this point. Joey 82. If Trump can be beaten once, he can be beaten again. And you're talking to a guy that's seen 2,000 Mules 4 times. I watched Michael Lindell's Cyber Symposium, and I've listened to all of the information and evidence that Trump has presented. If Trump can be beaten once, he can be beaten again, even with the Dems being in trouble, because Trump is going to bring to the party the same liquor that everybody drank and got sick on the first time. So if he comes back with the same liquor and he doesn't decide to get a different beverage and bring back, there are going to be people who remember vomiting the last time. Just understand that. It's all part of the plan. New World Order. What does that say? Is Capitan? I can't pronounce that, but I don't subscribe to New World Order. Until I see more proof, I can't subscribe to that. Trump can't be beaten. He's not running. For you, let me ask this audience. We still got well over 100 people in here. I'm just curious. Yes or no? If you will, type in the comments yes or no. Do you believe Trump is going to run in 2024? Yes or no? Because I'm seeing folks that are saying they don't think he's going to run. Yes or no? Do you believe Trump is going to come back on the ticket in 2024? Looks like somewhere within it saying yeah. Cyborg is saying no, and so is Noon Heat. Michelle, you're saying yes, and so is User 65. There's a healthy dose of you in here that are saying no. I didn't get sick, Dunder. Rep 8319. You're telling me, okay, you said I didn't get sick. Dunderheads. You are essentially serving me the same shit that got me sick right now and telling me you didn't get sick. The insults, the comments like Dunderhead, that's what they voted out. Now, your humble correspondent, I invite the insults. I make it clear. My skin is thicker than an alligator covered in cement. So you can insult your host all day long. No snowflakes. I don't ban you. I let you talk. There will never be censorship from your host here. If you get censored here, it's from social media. But the voting public has made it clear they do not like the insults. So when you respond with insults in your response, it shows that you simply have not gotten the message. But good luck in 2024. Keep trying that. I appreciate that. User 651 said that is why I like you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. Yes, I have an inside sources, Angry Knack 3. Okay. And I see your comment, TJS. You says boosh. Don 1964, you're saying no, you don't think he's running anymore. Why are you guys saying that? Well, somebody said they had an inside source, so I don't know, unless tighter voting laws take place. That might be his out right there with that comment, Nathan Strong. He may step up and say, I've decided not to run because I don't think the election is secure. They're just going to cheat anyway, so why do it? Okay, then why the hell did you collect all that damn money? Throw him in the category with Black Lives Matter. Why would you be collecting all of this money, knowing that the election was not secure, and then use the fact that the election is not secure to not run and keep the money? You guys need to think about that. Trump is running to the bank with the MAGA donation. Let's hope he's not double luck. That would really be morally bankrupt. There are a lot of Americans on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale that really believe Trump is the guy that's going to come in and save the day. They're really donating because they need him. They're financially hurting. They're suffering under Biden. A lot of their core values are being threatened in their opinion under Biden, whether it's gun control, the sanctity of life, Christianity, you name it. They believe their core values are in danger under a President Biden administration. They want Trump to come back in and correct things, predominantly with the wall. If he's collecting money from these folks who barely can afford to donate it to him, and he has no intentions of running, that is a horrible thing to do. That would make him morally bankrupt, in my opinion. But let's see what happens. He's fooling everyone to stay true to the Republican Party, says Amazing Who's fooling? Are you suggesting your host, your humble correspondent, yours truly? Are you suggesting that I'm fooling everyone? He's fooling everyone to stay true to the Republican Party. Elaborate on that. DeSantis will be president and Trump will be Speaker of the House. That's not going to happen. MB WePro, whatever, WebPro, whatever that says, that's not going to happen because Trump does not play second fiddle. I don't even think Trump is one who would say, my wife wears the pants around here. Trump is the boss. Wherever Trump is at, Trump is the boss of the location he is in. And there's no way in the world I would ever see Trump playing second fiddle, as you put it, Speaker of the House, to a president. That would be a horrible relationship because Trump would be constantly criticizing whoever the president was. I can never imagine any president in modern times wanting Trump as the Speaker of the House. That would not work. Anyone is better than Joe, says Joy. There's a lot of folks who agree with you, but they didn't vote enough in 2020. Conservatives morally bankrupt. Say it ain't so. Aaron Skywalker, there's some patriots out there. There's some genuine, kind-hearted, good Republican folks out there. There's bad people on both sides. Not to quote Trump in 2017, but there are some bad people on both sides. Overturning Roe will bring out more anti-Trump voters than GOP expected. Say no to cheese. I love cheese. And I also love your comment. I do believe, and I can't necessarily say I believe it will be strong enough to really, really affect the midterms, but I will say that could be possible. I do believe reversing Roe versus Wade right before the midterms is a bad move for the Republican Party. Now, for Republican voters, it's awesome. It shows that Trump kind of fell under the category of promises made, promises kept. His legacy is looking good, but for Republican politicians, it's not good. It makes their job just that much harder. They may still win. They may still remain victorious in November of this year, but this has made their job harder because there's not a lot to rally behind in regards to President Biden. He's not doing a good job at all. He's not going to rally. There's not a lot of Democrats that are going to rally behind Joe Biden, but they will rally behind preserving the right of a woman to choose. So this was not a good move for those justices deciding to do this. And keep in mind, right now, we're only going with the draft that leaked that indicates they're thinking about overturning Roe versus Wade. The actual decision to do it will even be closer to the midterms. We're talking June sometime. So it will actually even be closer, meaning that when folks vote in November, it will even be fresher on their mind. You want distance between a bad decision and election day. There's not going to be a lot of distance here. So it's not beneficial to the Republican Party. The leaking of the Roe decision gave the pro-choice an early start at organizing for November. And that is true. I agree with that comment 100%. Handsome for president. No, I can't deal with all the skeletons coming out of the closet. I say it always. If you decide to run for office, particularly president, every skeleton in your closet will somehow make it to the light. And if you are so clean, so morally correct that you have no skeletons in your closet, your opposition will hire an archaeologist to come to your house and put skeletons in your closet for you. I do not want to entertain living like that. The middle is left of right. I do believe that America is predominantly a right country. I'm trying to see how your comment, because I think what you're saying, I think I agree with it, but I would have to give it more thought. Biden is a walking left. Biden is a walking L. I don't get that. Who do you want to see as president? MB, WebPro, in regards to who I would like to see as president, I don't think I've seen them yet. Now, I'm going to hurt this audience hardcore. If I wanted to see someone on the liberal side that I absolutely believe would have a chance that could win, probably would be Michelle Obama. I think Michelle Obama's probably the only liberal I could think of in this current Biden, just the mess that Biden is creating right now. She's about the only liberal I can think of that would probably still be able to pull out a significant victory for liberals, Michelle Obama. Outside of her, whoever's going to run on the liberal side, I don't know what they may be able to produce, but I can't think of anybody. Now, keep in mind, what is it, 2022 right now? If we go back during Trump's time, when he when he announced he was going to run in 2015, because Biden's only been in office, what, a year, a little bit less than a year and a half. So if you go to Trump, you go to Obama's second term, this would be around 2013, because 2014, because he got inaugurated for a second term in January of 2013. So right now we'd be in May of 2014. Trump hadn't even announced he was going to run yet. And look how much popularity and how much he won the election by in 2016. So the point I'm trying to make is there could be a really good liberal out there that just has not even announced yet, because there was one on the Republican side, being Donald Trump. At this point in the presidency before Trump got elected, he had not announced he was going to run yet. So the jury's still out, folks. We got to see what's going on. I don't want a first lady as president who doesn't have sufficient political experience. Democratic Party USA. Well, with a comment like that, oh, now we talking to somebody who's definitely educated in the spear. A Democratic Party USA. Let me ask you personally. And by the way, folks, the box is open if you want to come in and talk to your boy. It's no snowflake zone. We handle any and all comments. I would ask you, Democratic Party USA, who do you favor? Considering your name, who do you favor for a Democratic candidate? Are you down with Kamala Harris, or is there somebody else out there? I'm hearing Governor Cooper in North Carolina might run in 2024 for president. Well, Mr. Cooper certainly needs to get more on a national stage. You need recognition, and that's one of the things that helps someone like Trump. It may ultimately help Dr. Oz, for instance. That celebrity status, it does benefit you. Being cool, being somebody that a lot of people liked, because you're going to take hits no matter what. Your entire persona is going to take a hit. Trump was far more well liked before he became president or ran for president. So was Hillary Clinton. So was Barack Obama. So was Dr. Oz. Running for president hurts, period. So you need to be pretty tough. You need to be pretty high up there to survive what they're going to throw at you. Someone else I can study and read about. Well, let's see what happens. I don't favor any current candidates, unfortunately, says Democratic Party. I'm similar to that, but at the same time, I don't favor Trump totally, because although I like the economy under Trump and I like the numbers, I like just the I guess I would say the metrics I enjoyed under Trump as a citizen, having to take care of myself. But I don't want the names, rhetoric, and the tweets. I don't want people, telling me to fuck my feelings and you need to just ignore this and pay attention to this stuff over here. I don't want to play a shell game. I should be able to look at the entire candidate, not ignore all of the rhetoric or ignore the tweets. You shouldn't have to do that, because when you look at a presidential candidate, you think of stuff like 7 years ago, or ask not what your country can do for you, ask what your country, presidents are known for speeches just as much as they are known for legislation. So why should we have a president where you got to ignore the speeches he gives, or you got to ignore what he says? That doesn't make any sense. What you say does matter. Let me see here. But who is new? Like I've said before, the Biden administration, his term is too much in its infancy. When you ask who is new, Biden is new right now. Just because we don't like Biden, and I understand there's a lot of folks who do not like Biden, but you got to keep in mind, it's not in a politician's best interest to announce they're running for president this early, because the minute you announce you're running for president, the dirt comes at you, the attacks come at you, which is why they try to hold off on that as long as they can. So there's certainly going to be other Democratic candidates that are going to step up, but right now it's too early, folks. It's too early. You spend, okay, the next president will be inaugurated in January 2025. So most likely June of 2023, maybe somewhere around next year is when you're going to start having folks come out of the woodwork and start announcing they're running. Folks who have a more uphill battle of running will announce earlier. Folks who already have a lot of popularity behind them, they will wait later. And that's what happens. But it will start happening in 2023. What are your thoughts on Nikki Haley? I like Nikki Haley, Henry K. Will. She did serve a couple of years under the Trump administration. She left on good standings. She was known for removing the Confederate flag off of the Capitol building while she was governor. Obviously, she leans right. And as a liberal, there's going to be things I'm going to have a problem with. But after dealing with Trump and, the Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders saga, I want to moderate. I make it clear, for you guys who watch me regularly, it's pretty clear that I'm fairly moderate on a lot of issues. I prefer someone like myself that can reach across the aisle, talk to other folks that are opposing my thoughts, my social tenets in politics. I believe you can accomplish more when you can speak to the other side. And right now, we seem to be electing folks who see things their way and their way only. Joe Biden was elected to be a unifier, and he's failed because he let the far left pull him in that direction. Obviously, Trump was operating on a platform of fuck your feelings from day one. So you're just not going to get any type of coexistence with the other side under either one of these candidates. So Nikki Haley, I could see something like that happening. I could see something like her getting elected and she would probably piss off some of the Trumpers, some of the MAGA folks, because she probably would be a little bit more moderate than the fuck your feelings crowd. So I'm not really opposed to somebody like that, even though I lean left. I'm not opposed to something like that. Nathan Strong 835, you said lowest approval rating ever. Are you talking about in regards to Biden? He was horrible to the Vietnamese when they were in camps. Not my people. Are you talking now? Who are you? Are you also talking about Biden? I don't like Biden. Never have. I just detest Trump. 00777, and that's the only reason I strongly believe that Biden won. Not that the liberals favored him or were very happy about him. He was just a means to get the job done. You might have a Glock that you really like. You've put the correct trigger on it. You got an extended magazine. Whatever you may really like that weapon. But if somebody comes in your crib and a 22 is lit, it's not my favorite weapon. But right now it'll get the job done. Biden was the 22. That's all. I'll put it that way. He got the job done, and that's the minute the job was successfully completed, you're going to put the 22 back and go back to your Glock because that's what you're comfortable with. But this 22 just happened to be laying around, and I thought it was the best thing to get the job done because I couldn't get access to the 22. We didn't have any really good candidates run in 2020, so we had a 22 laying around. We picked it up, and it did get the job done. So be it. Biden has failed America. Joey, I do believe his administration is unsuccessful. I won't say he failed America, but he certainly has not met his campaign promises. So I guess I can't disagree with your comment, but he still has 2+ years remaining in office. What will those be like if he loses significant support in the midterms? It'll probably be worse. Nothing will get accomplished, but I got to give the guy at least until his presidency is somewhat complete before I judge him completely. But right now, yeah, most Americans think the country's going in the wrong direction. And I appreciate that, TJS. We did get over 10K in the like section. You guys got me up to 10K. Much love. Appreciate that. Let me go back to what we were talking about the reason I came in here in the first place. And it's amazing that some of you guys are still riding on with your boy. It's midnight. I was doing nothing and I wanted to get on here and talk to the folks. And hey, it's a bunch of us in here. Why do you believe, based on your own research, your own analysis, your own observation, what is it about the GOP that does not seem to resonate with African Americans? And I understand the Democratic Party was the party of slavery. After the Emancipation Proclamation, the slaves were freed. The Democratic Party still overwhelmingly supported Jim Crow laws and oppression of African Americans. Based on that history, what is it about the Democratic Party in 2022 that seems to be attracting African Americans overwhelmingly? They overwhelmingly support the Democratic Party. I believe Trump did better with African Americans than any other president in recent history, or at all together. And he still came nowhere near 50%. So what is it about the Democratic Party that resonates with African Americans? And what is it about the GOP that they just does not seem to like? I'm asking you for your spiel. I'm asking you for, based on what you've seen, why do you think that is? And it looks like Pete Klurs, you're saying it's the media. Well, there's a lot of African Americans that do not watch the media, and they still have an opinion on the parties. Everyone doesn't watch the media. So, and same thing with F, your feelings, which we know what the F stands for. You said welfare. Once again, I have never received welfare in my life. So you think Oprah Winfrey, who is a long-term Democrat, is basing her beliefs for the Democratic Party on welfare checks? So that, I get what you guys are saying, but you're oversimplifying it. And here's the reason I would say that. It does not matter what demographic of African Americans we're talking about, whether it's a high school dropout or it's a PhD candidate, whether it's someone living in a tent camp in Los Angeles or living in a mansion in Beverly Hills. Every single demographic of African Americans support the Democratic Party more than the GOP. Now, it changes a little bit in different demographics, but there is no demographic in regards to African Americans that will vote more in favor of the GOP than the Democratic Party. So welfare doesn't cut it for that whole group, and neither does the media. So what is it about the GOP party that's not resonating with African Americans? There has to be more than welfare and the media to this. LeBron James would get canceled if he supported the GOP. That's true. I agree with that. That is probably true. He would be called the Dino, Democrat name only or something. He would get the same kind of treatment that Liz Cheney is getting and Mitt Romney is getting right now. The people who voted Democrat flipped over the Democratic Party, became the party of civil rights. Okay, the people who voted Democrat flipped. You got a word in there, and I really need to know what that word is to get your comment. But I think you're pointing to the switch there, genius. But there's a word that is, I don't know what you're saying. The Republicans are also trying to turn America into an oligarch control state. Wow. D1, 2, 3, 4. Elaborate on that. How do you believe that the Republican Party is trying to turn America into an oligarch control state? I'm black. I'm 67, and I can't recall or remember anybody in my family immediately receiving welfare. Defend 3747. Yeah, and I will say this. A lot of African Americans are insulted by comments like that because it obviously paints a picture that all of the African American race is receiving welfare and handouts. So I would suggest anyone who believes that African Americans vote Democrat understand what they're implicating or what they're suggesting when they say blacks vote Democrat because of welfare and free stuff. That's essentially saying the entire race is just looking for handouts and too lazy to work. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand how that may be insulting to some. You might as well just call us deplorables. I'm sure you can understand how that word makes you feel. You might as well just call the African American race deplorable, saying something like that. I have used welfare every time. What does that say? I have used welfare every time the president lost me my job. Okay, it's there. but every African American does not receive welfare. Republicans don't go to the black community. Dems are generational. Your parents voted Democrat. That is true. Flight 454 is that there is a severe lack of outreach from Republican candidates to the black and African American community. I'll give you a perfect spiel. Right now in the right-wing news, any of you folks who watch right-wing media, I'm sure you've heard this because this is ongoing and it's current. President Biden went to Buffalo, New York to console those families that were victims of a racist attack. The right-wing media is hammering President Biden for not going to the city of Milwaukee that had a lot of black-on-black crime, and I believe they named a few other cities that had black-on-black crime. Now, they're saying that he's leaning one side and being biased because he went to black victims, but then when it's black-on-black, he doesn't care about it. Now, on its face, it makes sense. It's a legitimate comment, but it's biased in the notion that how many times did you see President Trump going to a black or heavily urban area after a violent weekend? So why would you expect Biden to do it? I mean, you know, there's plenty of weekends where there were a ton of folks got killed in St. Louis on the summer or Memphis on the summer. Trump didn't show up in those towns to console those families. So why would you expect Biden to do it? So although the comment seems valid on its face, when you look at the last guy, you would suggest, okay, well, you make it sound like Biden is not doing something that Trump regularly did. No, he didn't do it either. Looking at the comments. Democrats tell a better story. It's all BS, but they sell it well. Ragnar, to some degree, I want to agree with you. However, I don't think it's a matter of Democrats telling a better story. I think it's a matter of Republicans not telling a story at all. It's like if you are called to go to court for litigation or something. The party that doesn't show up is going to lose the court case. And it's not that the Democrats are telling a better story. The Republicans are not showing up to tell a story at all. I strongly believe that if the Republican Party would show up and campaign to African Americans, their numbers would change. It wouldn't happen overnight. I mean, it's going to take years to reverse years of neglect. But President Trump gave you a perfect example that when you talk to a group of people, you can make a difference. His numbers did increase because he did sometimes speak to African Americans. And that's despite the fact that a lot of African Americans thought he said some really racist stuff. But he did regularly address the African American crowd. Bush didn't do it. Reagan didn't do it. And their numbers reflect that. And when Trump was in office, he stayed on Obama and blaming him for his failures. Key Troy, I will agree that Trump is, in all politicians do the blame game. But yeah, Trump was really good at it because under Trump, you had the riots and all of the Black Lives Matter stuff of 2020. It was a pretty hot summer, rioting, looting everywhere. Trump blamed most of that, the crime in urban areas. It was on liberal mayors, liberal governors, you know, Black Lives Matter. He was blaming all things liberal. Him as president, it wasn't the president's responsibility. It was the governors that were liberal. It was the mayors that was liberal. Biden got elected and suddenly became the president's fault. But it wasn't the president's fault when he was in office. So, yeah, he did play the blame game a lot. But they all do it. He's not the only one that does that. President Trump did more for the black community, says Nomad Bob. Well, I can, no matter how much I do for you, it's meaningless if you don't think I'm doing anything for you. And the African American community does not look at Trump like he was some kind of savior or he was doing so much. They do not see him that way. That's a problem. He needs to figure that out. Before Trump ran for president, Blacks people loved him. Black talk show hosts all invited him on. Click, 5, 6, 7, 8. You are correct. Trump was widely favored in the hip hop community and the African American community. However, that's the fact that he ran for office and suddenly got treated like crap is not something unique for Trump. Before Hillary Clinton ran, she was a first lady. She was the Secretary of State. She was a senator. Nobody was saying that she was drinking the blood of infants until she ran for president. All of a sudden, she ran for president and she was abusing children and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Same thing with Barack Obama. He was a senator. Nobody said he was born in Africa until he became president. And look at Joe Biden. The minute he got elected, he was suddenly about to pass away. So when you become president, which is what I mentioned anytime somebody suggests that the handsome liberals should become a politician, dirt comes at you. And keep in mind, in regards to Trump and your point that folks loved Trump before he got elected, Trump himself was a primary figure involved in the birther movement against his predecessor, Barack Obama. He himself was promoting dirt on Barack Obama, suggesting that he was an illegitimate president and he had no right to be in office. So when he gets elected and you go, wow, I can't believe why so many black folks suddenly does not like him. Look at how he treated the first black president. You don't think that would have any type of outcome to it? You don't think there would be any type of consequence for doing that? And of course, he did admit that Barack Obama was born in America right before he got elected. But he had already been saying he wasn't for 2 years before that. And he never apologized. So then he gets elected and you expect black folks to just embrace him? Look at what he did before you just look at it that way. People thought Obama was from Africa because he lived there for my years. And okay, I've lived in Australia. Do I look Australian to you? I lived there for years. Do I look Australian to you? The guy had a birth certificate. I always hold it up when this conversation comes up. Here is Barack Obama's 2012 campaign fundraising cup, because Trump was doing a birther movement on him so much, he released the short form of his birth certificate. Just like you would go to, if you lost your birth certificate, the one they gave you when you were born, and you went down to City Hall or the state building or whatever and got a reprint of it would say certificate of live birth. Obama went and got that and showed that to the public. Trump, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and all of them said that was not correct. You need to show the loan form. We want to see the loan form, the one your mom got when you came home from the hospital. He went and got that. It's on the back of the campaign cup. This is Obama's certificate of live birth. He actually raised money based on it. And of course, Trump said that wasn't real. And so did Sheriff Joe Arpaio. So when Trump got elected, you would have to understand that anyone who liked Barack Obama would probably have had odds with him. That would answer your question when you suggest that they never gave Trump a chance from day one. Well, it's because there was a lot before day one that he was involved in. All politicians is not lie, not just Trump. That is true, Tony Flick. That is true. But here's my response to that. When you say all politicians lie, not just Trump. Trump was elected, just like Biden. Biden was elected to be a unifier. Everyone is elected for a specific purpose. Trump was elected to not be a typical politician. So when he starts fucking up, the last thing we want to hear is all politicians do that. We elected you because you're not one of them. So don't try to put yourself in a power with one of them when you screw up. Obama was a radical activist against the United States while living in Africa. Well, I guess I'd start out by asking, what is your definition of a radical activist against the United States? Because anyone could spin that any kind of way they want to. I mean, suggesting that the president is not born in America and then later admitting it without apologizing. Someone would say that that's a radical that's against the United States because you're trying to cause rift with the smooth flow of power in the White House. We could spin this any kind of way. Trump's not real. Hey, let's see if you guys got me 10,000. Let's see if you guys can tap your screen. There's still over 100 of us in here at this odd hour. So feel free to get your boy up, maybe to about 15,000 likes, if you will. But Michelle Obama said, my husband's hometown is in Kenya, hometown where you were born. Since when do we always agree or believe what Obama said? When he said, if you want your doctor, you can keep your doctor, or I'm not going to mess with your Second Amendment rights. Did you believe that? But all of a sudden she says, my husband's hometown is in Kenya, and suddenly that's become the gospel truth. Maybe she was joking about that. How many things have Trump said that the liberals criticized him on, and you guys responded with, it's just a joke. It's just locker room talk. Maybe he was joking. Maybe he was joking. So it's almost as though you're picking and choosing what you want to believe if it fits the narrative. But at the end of the day, like I said, the man presented a birth certificate that stated he was born in the country, and Trump himself has stated, yes, he was born here. But because he caused that rift for so long, a lot of Trump supporters still to this day do not believe that man was born in this country. 2017 till now, yeah. Middle, right, or left behind. I don't get that comment. My fellow reps give it up. No one's touching the Clinton powerhouse. The Clintons are done. Now, yeah, they still have a significant amount of power in Washington, but I don't believe you're going to see a Clinton presidency. Now, that would be interesting, though. What if Hillary Clinton showed back up on the scene in 2024? Would she have a chance? I understand a lot of you folks would believe no, and I see your comment, Big Red. You asked, why do I support the Democratic Party? I will respond to that in kind. Give me a second. But Hillary Clinton, a lot of folks who favored Bernie Sanders now look at the 3 Supreme Court justices appointed by Donald Trump in the rolling back of Roe versus Wade, and they probably wish they had voted for Hillary Clinton, despite her negatives. And the reason I say that is because the Bernie crowd is predominantly folks who are aged in that category where rolling back Roe versus Wade will affect them directly. I'm in my late 40s. Roe versus Wade isn't going to mean anything to me. I'm not going to be worried about that. But the college crowd that was in favor of Bernie Sanders, these are fertile people that are going to be affected by that. My guess is, looking back, they probably wish they had went ahead and went with Hillary Clinton. Why do I support the Democratic Party? Because I support some left-leaning social issues, such as a woman's right to choose. I'm in favor of criminal justice reform. And Trump did give that lip service, but at the end of the day, he didn't accomplish anything in regards to criminal justice reform. But I'm in favor of criminal justice reform. Never smoked a joint or did drugs in my life, but I'm in favor of legalizing marijuana. So these are left-leaning tendencies. I don't believe Christianity should be in everything. And the right believes that. I have to say something else that's not very popular in this crowd with my beloved audience, my MAGA audience, MAGA friendly all day, every day, but I'm not a fan of states' rights or very small government, particularly because of its history. Just like you would feel as though you do not want your Second Amendment rights infringed upon because you believe, historically, looking at other countries, that if you give them a little bit, they'll take a mile and ultimately take all your gun rights away. Well, if I look at the history of America and how it performed under states' rights for people like me, why would I want to go back to that? So I have to say, I mean, just like you would never let anyone in regards to the Second Amendment tell you that Hitler's way in the past, that we could never have a Hitler like that in America. You're not going to trust that when it comes to your gun rights. But why would I trust that when it comes to states' rights? The history of America with states' rights has been horrendous to people like me. So that's kind of why I tend to lean left. Healthcare, environmental conservation. Yeah, I mean, there's other reasons. User guy. Certainly that too. Less spending, more freedom. Well, you do understand what I'm talking about is complete loss of freedom. Don't trust white evangelicals. I don't have a lot of interaction with white evangelicals, so I can't say if I trust them or not. 2125, all for Roe versus Wade. We'll see. Impeach Biden, says, what does that say? Takan 964. That could actually happen. A Biden impeachment. Let's see what happens in the midterms. But certainly when it comes to immigration issues, immigration violations, I do believe Biden has probably committed some of those. You could see an impeachment. I don't think it would go anywhere, but you could see that. Hunter should be in prison. That's not going to happen, even though that may be true too. But I've said it before on this program, on my broadcast. Folks at the level of Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, President Trump, or even Hunter Biden's son, folks at that level do not go to jail. Even when they do wrong shit, they do not go to jail. You're not going to let your son let's suggest your son is Hunter Biden, God forbid, and I understand you don't think your son would ever be Hunter Biden or your daughter, but let's say your child used your name, your rank, and went out and committed a money crime. No, he didn't murder anybody. He didn't take anybody's sexual innocence or anything like that. He went out and committed a money crime using your name or your affiliation. My dad is this or my dad is that, and he was able to commit a money crime. And you have the power personally, with the stroke of a pen, to pardon him. You would do that. Period. You would do that. I strongly believe if you suggest that you would let your son spend the rest of your natural life in prison for that, when all you have to do is sign something and let him out, you're lying to yourself. You would do it. Your parents would do it for you, and President Biden will do it for his son. So if you're expecting Hunter Biden to do a day in jail, you are wasting your time. Let's see who's there. Rainy, what are you doing up this late, girl? Let's see.
How do you feel about the Biden administration handled the border crisis horrendously? I don't think Biden at the border has been very good at all. Something that he certainly wants to move on to the next topic. Rainy, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing very good. What's on your
I
mind this
actually
evening?
wa- I actually wanted to jump in to talk about this border scenario as well. So I don't understand why would Joe Biden be impeached for what exactly? I'm confused.
Okay, one of the things he was literally caught doing is sneaking in illegal immigrants under the cover of darkness and displacing them throughout American cities. He doesn't have any authorization to do that. And there were Border Patrol agents caught on camera saying that I'm not supposed to even tell you about this, but they were not in favor of it. But he certainly has committed immigration violations by, for the most part, being a co-conspirator with illegal immigration. You mean you're not supposed to assist somebody in
What?
so go ahead,
Wait,
go
wait,
ahead.
wait, wait, wait. Illegal immigration? It is
If you
law for these people to come to our border and seek asylum. Everybody that's been released into this country has fucking been put into immigration asylum procedures. So I don't understand like how that's illegal. Like what I'm so perplexed how this is being bastardized as an illegal activity when it's
okay,
legal for them to seek asylum. And just because our courts are backed up, that doesn't mean we just don't let them in. They have to be their cases have to be adjudicated. That's like
okay.
American law.
The fact that you're sneaking them into the country and putting them in various
It's not
neighborhoods without
sneaking. It literally isn't sneaking. They know where they are. They're being put either into they're released to their families or NGOs all around this country. There are NGOs that these
I
people are
would
going to.
I would submit to you that they do not know where they all are. They do not, they
Okay.
once you release them off the bus, you do not know where. I can tell you with absolute certainty that if the
Okay.
Biden administration, go ahead,
I'm
go
curious.
ahead.
What would be different between all the other presidents who did the same shit? This is not new. Seeking asylum isn't new. Letting people into the country isn't new. None of this shit that Joe Biden is doing is new. Literally, nothing is new.
Well, when it comes to sneaking them into the country in the middle of the night, sneaking them throughout the country in the middle of the night, even if you're suggesting that it's not new, let's say what you're saying is true. Well, he got caught. He got caught. I'm not saying that other politicians do not break laws, but when you get caught, you're going to be treated different. He
But
got
my
caught
my
doing
point
this.
is, it's not caught doing what? That's nothing. Nothing's. I guess I just where I have a problem with the term caught because it's not caught. It literally is. This is what they do. They've always done this. Do you know how many people we have in this country? Not just from Joe Biden, but there's millions and millions of people here that shouldn't be here. Do you
So
think
what
they
you're
all just got here because of Joe Biden?
so what you're suggesting? No, of course not. But what you're suggesting that if Biden literally dispersed illegal immigrants because they didn't come here legally, and they're dispersed all over the country to the point where he does not even know where they all are. And I can say that with absolute certainty that if the Biden administration had to account for all of those folks that they transported, they would not be able to find them all. You're telling me nothing has been done wrong there?
Honestly, I see nothing wrong. I mean, there's no way we can maintain 2 million immigrants in some sort of jail until their cases are heard. That's not even rational or possible. I mean, to me, if this was really such a big issue, honestly, for the Republicans, this is my opinion, if Donald Trump was serious about this whole issue of quote unquote illegal immigrants coming here, then they could have changed the asylum laws in the first 2 years. He had the whole government. They had supermajority in the Senate, and they had the House and the presidency in his first 2 years. They didn't touch the asylum laws because they didn't want to. They don't want to fix this problem, right? And
Okay.
so for me, I just find it's a joke almost like if no one wants to change the asylum laws, but it's still legal for these people to come here and seek asylum, and the only people who can grant them asylum are judges, not the government. It's a judge that can grant asylum, right? So I laugh at all of this. It's a big circle jerk, and I just don't even understand how anybody can sit here and say this is Joe Biden. Congress needs to fucking change the laws. Period.
Okay,
You
fair
don't
enough.
see
Well,
them working on any immigration laws, right? They're not working
okay.
on shit.
Okay, fair. Well, what you're suggesting, let's see how that goes. But I'm responding to your question as to, well, how can Joe Biden be impeached? Now, keep in mind, when Trump got impeached with the Russian issue, he was acquitted. The investigation turned up nothing. Perhaps if Biden get investigated or get impeached, the same thing may happen. But what I'm pointing out to you is that I believe, based on what I said, it is a possibility the Republican Party could impeach him. You're suggesting that there's nothing there, which could happen. You
No,
can be charged.
I
You
know
can
they
be
will impeach him.
okay.
I know they will impeach him. It's stupid because then if you impeach Joe Biden, their arch nemesis Kamala Harris will be president, and Nancy Pelosi will be vice president. So I mean, it's all Joe Biden was smart. He hired Kamala Harris on just so he knew they wouldn't fuck with him. So anyway, I just find it all a
Well,
joke, honestly.
let me counter you when you say that they won't impeach him because they don't want to deal with Kamala Harris. Sometimes folks will do something just to mark up your legacy or just to fuck with you. Even like for a good example would be just what was it, the week before last, or maybe was it last? No, the week before last when the Democratic Senate decided to hold a vote on Roe versus Wade. They knew it was going to go. They knew the bill was not going to go anywhere, but they just wanted folks to have their name on the record on how they felt versus Roe versus Wade. They could do that in regards to impeaching Joe Biden, where they know it's not going to go anywhere at the end of the day. A lot of Democrats probably felt that way when they impeached Trump. At the end of the day, this is not going to go anywhere, but we want to do this just to stain his legacy. I could see that happening on Joe Biden.
And that's the sick part of it, right? I mean, they did this to Bill Clinton. I'm shocked Obama didn't get impeached for anything. Like, I'm shocked they didn't make up some craziness, right? It's wild. It's just wild.
Okay, all right. It's
Anyway,
called politics. And thank you,
yeah,
Monica Collins. I appreciate that. But it's called politics. That's what politics is. It's politics.
yeah.
I can absolutely see Biden getting impeached. Don't rule that out.
No, like I said, I think they will. I just don't know that it's valid, is
Okay.
my point. And if it's on the basis of the border, I call BS on all of that because literally he put in a freaking immigration bill at the start of his presidency. Congress is refusing to touch it. So it's like, what do you want me just to be damned if I do, damned if I don't? I mean, think about
Well,
it. This whole Title 42 thing that's happening right now, we've had 2 million encounters with Title 42. I mean, like with Title 42 already in place. So it's like all of these people, what do you expect us to do here at this point? I don't even know like what's the logical response. I mean, build
well,
the wall, and then
I
we
will,
see all the
I will,
tunnel systems that these people are fucking digging into the country. So it's like, what wall is going to keep them out? It's all a joke.
well, I will just say this in regards to President Biden. And you saying it's a joke and all of that. It really depends on what happens in the midterms. If they win enough in Congress, they do well enough in the Senate, that joke may also become a successful impeachment. So don't, like I
Mm.
said, just don't rule it out, regardless
I
if you
don't
think
rule it
it's
out. I know
legitimate or
it's gonna
not.
happen. I know the
Yeah,
Republican Party.
okay,
It's gonna
that's all
happen.
I'm
I
saying.
get it. All right, darling. I'll talk to you soon, okay? Thank you,
Absolutely.
moderate.
Hey, I appreciate that. That was good
All
stuff.
right, have a good night.
All right.
Okay, 293 from, what does that say? Oh, you going from Michigan. Okay, I see that you're traveling. Uh then what do you suggest, Rainey? What can we do? Well, I don't think she saw that, but in regards to the immigrant issues we have in this country, my opinion, because folks go, well, what can we do? We can't take all these folks in, but you have laws in regards to folks seeking asylum and all of that. We could do more to help the country of Mexico be less of a country that they want to leave. I mean, if we can send, how much money did we send to the Ukrainians? 80 billion or whatever number it was. How much money did we spend in Iraq? A trillion, or how many trillion did we? If you put money in Mexico, or you want to do some behind the scenes type shit, like we put Hamid Karzai, an American sympathizer in Afghanistan, start screwing around with their elections and put the right politician in charge of Mexico. It sounds kind of underhanded, but we could make Mexico, through backdoor channels, a more desirable place for those citizens to stay. If we done that, because regardless of what you think about our illegal immigration problem or what you think about Hispanics, they don't want to leave their homeland. It's not, they don't just, they don't start looking at America as the place they want to be from the time they're in kindergarten. It's not like that. They leave there because it really is bad there. If their homeland was a decent place to stay and they weren't, financially strapped or running for their lives from the cartel, they would stay in their own home country. Because when the economy in America started getting bad under the Bush and early part of the Obama administration, the amount of illegal immigrants coming into America dropped. They only want to come here to better themselves. They're not coming here to be American. So we probably could do a little bit more behind the scenes to make that country better for them to stay there. I think that would probably be the best thing to do, as opposed to building walls and what Trump suggested, locking up illegal immigrants for 5 years or stuff. No, you want to really make a difference. Work with that country, help them get rid of cartel. Okay, here's a good example. When we want somebody, we can throw literally anybody we want on the terrorist list. And we do this all the time around the world. If we hate your ass, you suddenly become a terrorist, and that gives us all types of new ways that we can deal with you. Any member of the cartel, start viewing them as a terrorist. That way, we now can come in Mexico to some degree and get this person. If this person gets too close to the border, we're going to drone them. Try doing things like that, and it would help that country out, and it might keep some of them from coming over here. Looking at the comments here, let's see here. Open borders is a threat to national security. Biden has violated his oath by not securing the border. I suppose you could look at it that way, that open borders is indeed a threat to national security. But unfortunately, like I've said before in many other broadcasts, both the left and the right want illegal immigrants in this country. Liberals want illegal immigrants here because they ultimately turn into votes once they become naturalized. And the right wants illegal immigrants in this country because they support big business, and big business overwhelmingly likes to undercut American labor laws. And I say this to anyone who believes that liberals are for open borders and the right is for security and integrity of the border. Well, Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to thousands, tens of thousands of illegal immigrants got amnesty to stay here under Ronald Reagan. And George W. Bush is known for the phrase, they will work jobs no Americans want. So don't ever believe that only the left wants these people here. The right has a history of it. I just gave you examples. Why don't we just put another star on our flag? Rennie Blankenship, which one would that be, Mexico or Puerto Rico? Because Puerto Ricans are really getting the short end of the stick on that. And Defend 3746, yeah, you said, I remember, yeah. I mean, because both George Bush and Ronald Reagan helped out a lot of illegals. All Georgia Republicans look the other way when it's time to harvest. Yeah, and that's the point I'm trying to make is that both sides want illegal immigrants here because they benefit from it. We benefit, like I said, from votes. Most Hispanics, particularly coming from south of the border, not necessarily Cuba, Venezuela, those folks tend to vote right because they hear the word socialism and they run for the hills. But most Hispanics are not from socialist countries. And yeah, they tend to vote left. And certainly when you start having Trump talking about, putting up a moat with snakes and shooting them and locking them up for 5 years, that certainly has set him back with the Hispanic community. How is the CIA going to make money? Exactly. Exactly. And that just goes to show that a lot of things we are complaining about, the powers that be in this country are partially, if not totally, responsible for it. Certainly with the cartel, there's no way that if we truly wanted to prevent smuggling and drugs from coming in this country over the southern border, that we could not do better than the miserable job we're doing now. It's because people in this country are getting paid. And we all know it. We all know it. Which is why I have a hard time with any argument that only blames the illegal immigrants. I've said this before. If Trump, even Trump, who I believe made the best effort towards securing the border, if he really wanted to succeed, he would go after Americans who hire illegals because they're not all coming here for welfare and free health care. Most of them are coming here to work. Hospitals, farms, hotels, lawn care, construction companies. I suggest what we do is when we catch someone coming here illegal in the Rio Grande or crossing the desert or whatever, you grab the guy, when you go through his things, which they always do, and you find the paperwork on him, he's got a resume or some job lined up in Minneapolis or something, you tell him, you now work for us. We're going to give you amnesty or we're going to give you residency, but you work for us. You now work for the federal government. We're going to send you to that plant in Minneapolis that you have on your resume that's going to hire you. We're going to put a wire on you. You're going to talk to the management or the powers that be at that company you're going to, and you're going to tell them, listen, I don't have any paperwork. Is that a problem with me starting here? When they make it clear that they're willing to hire you, knowing that you have no paperwork, you come back out to the van and you talk to us. We'll go in there and shut the entire company down, arrest the proper people, and shut the company down. And we're going to put you on a bus. You're now going to Milwaukee, and you're going to do the same thing there. And then we're going to bounce you around. You'll go to Detroit after that. And after the American businesses start realizing that anyone who hires these people will be at threat by law, there will be a lot less Americans hiring them. That's how you would make a big dent in the illegal immigration problem. What territory did Jim Jones go to? You guys in the comments going nuts. Exactly. The migrants are coming in now for farming. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you as an American employee knew that you would be in danger of a year in imprisonment or losing your business license entirely if you were convicted of being a co-conspirator to an illegal immigrant, you would not do it. You would not do it if you knew that they actually were sending, if they actually were performing stings. Right now, as we speak, there are laws on the books for helping folks stay in this country illegally. They don't enforce them though. If you knew they were actively enforcing them, you think twice. Like the war on drugs, for instance. If you knew you could actually do time for doing this shit, a lot of folks would not do it. A lot of businesses would not. I mean, you're talking, okay, yeah, I can hire an illegal. I can save $3-4 an hour with my employees and make a bunch of extra money. That's fine. But if you know that your freedom is at stake, your entire business is at stake, folks would think twice about that. But we don't do that. We blame the illegal immigrant for the whole problem. I'm liking your live, says Rose Patterson 238. Good. I'm liking the fact that you're here. And let me promote my own self or whatever and ask that for you guys who do like it, feel free to follow the page or the whatever you want to call this. Doesn't cost you anything, helps out your boy. 7 p.m. Monday through Friday is when I normally do this. I just happen to be up, wanted to come in here and talk to the folks. There's a lot of folks in here. Make it clear, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, I am clearly I'm a liberal. My favorite audience is MAGA. I like it because I can reach across the aisle. We can have a healthy dialogue. So this is absolutely a MAGA-friendly audience. There's no censorship here. The only way you're going to get censored is if social media does not like what you say. Your humble correspondent, yours truly, my skin is thicker than an alligator covered in cement. So you can tell me where to get off. You can type whatever you want in the comments. I don't run from comments. I entertain just about everyone I can see and get to, even when they're insults. I like hearing how you feel. That is why I'm here. And it is open to the public. You are correct, TJS. Let me look at it. And by the way, I do allow folks in the box. So if you want to come on live, get your spiel out, feel free to send the invite. I do take the invites and I give you a few minutes to get your point across and we have it up. Just Uncle T says, Thomas, is that referring to me as an Uncle Tom? Feel free to type the word out. Let me know. Holla at your boy. Because I do get that regularly on broadcast. Because although I'm a liberal, I'm able to see both sides of most issues. And I'm willing to give credit where the Republican Party deserves credit. I'm willing to give credit where I think Trump deserves credit. I don't just toe the party line. And a lot of folks see a person that looks like me giving Republicans credit for some things, and they instantly call me a sellout, Uncle Tom, Uncle Ruckus. I get it on every single broadcast. Do you ever sleep, says Rob 69. Yes, I do. I do sleep. And under this environment, I keep one eye open, but I do sleep. The AM for being, okay, what is this? It says, thank you for being accepting of all parties. Thank you. You're right. I like that. And I try, and like I said, that's what I strive to do. I think that says lit 666. That is the aim here, is to be accepting of all parties. I'll let you get your point across. No snowflake zone. You see the sign behind me? No snowflakes. We let you talk here. I was a Democrat. Are you just afraid to change at this point? Tick Tomby, no, I'm not. No, I'm not afraid to change. If I think that the Republican Party has my best interest at heart, they favor the social issues that I'm most concerned with, I'd change in a heartbeat. They're not there yet. I've given my spiel many times on why I tend to lean left. If the right comes up with a way of doing it better, then I'm going to go right. But as far as I'm concerned right now, the metrics economically were better under Trump, but my social issues he tends to be against. There you go. Good question. Would you rather be president under your party being a majority? So that depends if Trump. Wait a minute. Nathan Strong. Would you rather be president under your party being a majority? So that depends if Trump runs. I don't get your comment there. Reword that. I'd love to entertain it, but I don't understand what you're saying. User 766. If Americans knew what cartels are doing at the border and Biden refuses to stop them, I think most Americans do know. We've seen Sicario, movies like that. I mean, I think most Americans know between the cartels and gangs like MS-13 that these are ruthless people. It's not a matter that Americans do not know what the cartels are doing. It's not knowing for sure that there are a lot of Americans aiding the cartels. And that's coming from both sides of the aisle. That's the part that Americans don't know. 192 blocked gasoline caps in why? I don't get that one either. TikTok is boring when you're not on. Wow, defend 3740. That is a really nice accolade. Wow, appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys really know how to humble a brother. Don64, he's called you that every live you have. And I don't mind. Look, for folks who think I'm a sellout, you see a guy like me, like I said, and you want me to go meh and sell lamb chops all day. You're not going to get that from your humble correspondent. I'm sorry if I don't just attack MAGA all day and attack Republicans all day and make it sound like Joe Biden is just a superhero. He's not. He's not. And I see a lot of folks suffering at the gas pump that says that. If Biden was doing a really good job, I'd battle with you and go against MAGA and go against the right all day long and suggest that. But he's not. And if saying that makes me some kind of sellout or whatever, feel free to call me that all day, every day. Can you please address my question? What was Trump doing What was Trump going to do with that top secret and confidential? Your comment got cut off, D1. It says, can you please address my question? What was Trump going to do with that top secret and confidential what? Top secret and confidential what? Democrats went too far left, says the company. You're right. Certainly under the Biden administration, where Biden was elected to be a unifier. And keep in mind, and I will admit, Biden got elected to unite the country and he caved to the far left. But keep in mind, we have to ask the question, why was Biden elected to be a unifier? What was happening to make us elect a guy whose sole goal was to unify the country? Think about that. I was a because there's a lot of Republicans saying that he failed at his job to unify the country. Why was he elected to unify the country? I was a Republican for a long time until my eyes were open. They are full of shit and racist. Ooh, Frank Speak TV. Really? Wow. Okay. Fair enough. And I don't, like I said, no judging on the comments. Free speech here all day. Why do you personally believe that the Republican Party is intolerant, racist, or whatever you? Why do you believe that? Like I said, no judging. We let you get your point across. I'm curious if you would elaborate on that. That was an interesting comment. Okay, looking at the rest of it. The same folks crying about immigration are the ones crying about NAFTA. That comment is what I would refer to as a home run. User guy 1962. I mentioned a little bit ago in the broadcast that one of the best ways to address the illegal immigration problem, the influx of thousands of migrants trying to get in this country, is to help make their country better for them to stay there. And going against NAFTA is going against the idea of doing that. So that is a really good point. If you really want America first, so to speak, you want to make more money for America, and I understand that. NAFTA was designed to some degree to kind of do what I'm suggesting, just not to the right level. But we probably would have to take a hit somewhat on maybe a trade imbalance. A good example would be all of the jobs we've sent to China. We have made China a much better country economically for Chinese citizens. They're doing quite well over there. A lot of them have gotten up to the point now where they're starting labor unions. Not only are they making enough money, they're fighting for raises and shit now. If we had done that to Mexico, they wouldn't be coming to this country anymore. We should have moved those jobs to Mexico instead of China. And by the way, Mexico is an ally. China never was, at least not since probably the time they were dealing with the Japanese in World War II. So we probably, all of the money, all of the jobs, all of the call centers, all of the manufacturing we sent to China, if we had sent it to Mexico, Mexico would probably be damn near a first world country by now. The same folks crying about immigration. Let me see here. It's too hard to figure a party. It's too hard to figure a party because they're both corrupt and crooked. I'm still anti-government. Tony Flick 606. I do agree. There's plenty of corruption on both sides of the aisle. However, anti-government would only remove us. It would remove the corrupt politicians out of the picture and leave it all up to the people to govern themselves, and corruptness would even be worse. It would even be worse. Just going to say that. I don't believe the people left to govern themselves would be any less corrupt than the government. They would just start forming mini governments and doing the same damn thing. I love how level-headed and considerate you are in debates. Thank you, Rob 69. Appreciate that. I like to give the other side a chance to get their spiel across. I like to be able to talk to the folks. A lot of good education comes out of here. A lot of good conversation comes from here, and that's all I can ask for. That's all I can ask for. I enjoy talking to you guys. Let me scroll forward a little bit because I'm kind of behind. What will Republicans do to actually stop inflation? Bring down the price of fuel. You got to kind of go backwards towards big oil. My opinion, coming from your humble correspondent, yours truly, Biden being in favor of alternative energies, and as a liberal, I'm a fan of alternative energy, getting off of big oil. I'm a fan of it, but it has to be done or implemented properly. We do not have the infrastructure in place to completely get off of big oil or move to the alternative side as fast as Biden tried to do it. He tried to do it too fast, and boom, we got a disaster on our hands. Very similar to trying to leave Afghanistan too fast, and it didn't go very well. You got to do this stuff in stages. We just do not have the proper um, plants with the battery power, the range of electric cars, all that stuff. Got to. It has to be done in increments. He tried to move too fast. That's all. That's the way I look at it. Republicans are not going to save us with gas prices. I disagree with that, Lobo Warrior. I think if you had a Republican in there right now, particularly like a guy like Trump, he would tear down the entire environment to get as much fuel pump, much oil pumping as possible. Now, of course, the environmentalists wouldn't like that, and there may be some legitimate reasons behind that, but I do believe fuel prices would drop pretty damn fast under President Trump if he got back in office because he would focus solely on that. The Native Americans, the Wildlife Fund, the EPA, all of those environmental folks would take a backseat to drilling. We would be fracking all over the fucking place. And there would be an influx of fuel coming out of the ground under President Trump. And the price of fuel would fall. Now, like I said, the groups that I just named would hate him for it. And they would have their own legitimate points to make. But I do believe the price of fuel would fall dramatically under Trump. Lobo, let's hash it out.
The more I watch is the more you sound like a conservative. No, because you're probably used to hearing folks who are far left, and I'm coming across as a moderate, even willing to sometimes point where the other side might be getting it right. If you're listening to folks on the far left, you don't hear that. Lobo Warrior, what's going on?
Well, I wanted to talk about the gas a little bit. I think what we all forget was April 2020 was the OPEC Plus deal that Trump did during the pandemic. Did you hear about that?
Okay. I have, but I don't know enough to elaborate. Give me your spiel on it.
So the oil companies pressured Trump and the GOP to reduce the amount of fuel that was being pumped because the pandemic, because there was a big surplus of fuel and they were losing money, or they said they were losing money. Not once did the oil companies lose profit, but they didn't get as much profit as they like. So Trump made the deal with Mexico, with Russia, and OPEC to reduce the amount of fuel that they were producing because there was such a surplus and fuel was low, supply and demand, right? So what ends up happening is when he passed that, Mexico couldn't, in theory, they couldn't reduce the amount of, I think it was 10 million barrels a month or something. They couldn't. So the U.S. ended up covering that amount. So the U.S. cut the difference in how much fuel was being pumped out, so that fuel would go up, and these oil companies, which are now making, astrological profits, record-breaking profits. So when that happened, our fuel started going up. Now, what's happening now is there was just a bill that the Republicans in the House, they just voted against, which would put a cap on the inflation for the fuel prices. So all these 192 Republicans said, no, we don't want to put a cap on that. And if you look at where historically the money's been put from the gas companies, they've been buying out Republicans 20-1 in the money they give to Republicans to keep the pressure on, to keep the prices high. So with that being said, we're in a dilemma now where the Democrats really are trying to get the fuel lower, but because it's such a big talking point, and you hear this all day on your show, on anybody else's, is Biden's at fault for the inflation, for the price spike, right?
Yeah, and I stand by that, because even if the Republicans are doing what you're talking about, that's politics. As a president, your job is to unite the folks under you to get legislation passed. If you fail, it's going to happen under your watch, and it's going to be your fault. Now, if we want to technically say that Joe Manchin is responsible for a lot of Biden legislation not passing, or the Republicans, technically you're right. but you're president. It's going to happen under your watch. No one's going to be talking about the Senate and all that. They're going to, at the end of the day, you're president and the country is performing poorly under your watch because you have so many folks under you that you need to implement your legislation that are not working with you. You're
But
not
it's not
uniting. Go ahead.
it's not a lack of trying. As a
Doesn't
matter of
matter.
fact, he
It's a
went to
lack of
Saudi.
succeeding. No, it's not
Yeah,
a lack.
but
No, I agree with you. It's not a lack of trying. It's a lack of succeeding.
no. Well, see, he went to Saudi again and asked him to increase the amount of production, and Saudi told him no. He tried to work with the Congress and telling them, hey, let's cap this. The Republicans said no. Um, when Trump created OPEC Plus, it's like I told you yesterday, was the cause and effect. And it's like having a credit card, and when the bills or something else gets blamed, but it wasn't Biden. Biden wasn't in office. That created this problem. And the problem really started at COVID when Trump didn't take it seriously. And now we had the shutdowns and all that, and now we're feeling the effects of that. That's how the economy works, right? All the supply chain and everything is because Trump's incompetence and how to lead this country. And it looked fine and dandy when it was there and we were getting free paychecks, but now it's come to roost. So
Well,
he's got to shoulder a lot of blame for that.
well, unfortunately, he's not going to get it, even if you're right, because first of all, when Biden ran for office in 2020 or 2019 or whenever he announced, he didn't. If you knew this is coming down the pike, he should have ran on that platform, and he did not run on the platform that fuel prices are going to shoot up if we don't do something really quick. I don't recall hearing him say any of that when he was running for office. So if this is so predictable based on what you're saying, it should have been coming out of Biden's mouth as a campaign slogan that, next year we're going to be paying a fortune in fuel prices because of what Trump has done. I didn't hear
Well, that
that at
wasn't
all. Did
the
you?
well, yeah. The issue was not gas prices because obviously they were pretty low. I mean, I enjoyed them, right? I mean,
No,
when I
no,
got to travel,
that's not what I'm saying. Even though gas prices were low, what you're suggesting is because of Trump's policies, it was predictable that in the deals he made, it was predictable that gas prices were going to shoot up. And what I'm saying is, if you knew it and the powers that be knew it, why wasn't Biden rather? Why wasn't Biden singing this out as part of his campaign slogan? He was not saying that. So that what ended up happening is that the rise in gas prices came as a total shock to most American folks who are at the pump, and we're going to blame it on Biden. They're not going to blame it on Trump.
well, yeah, they're gonna blame it on him because a lot of stuff wasn't a current issue, right? When they were campaigning, that was at the bottom of the list because gas was low, but a lot of their priorities were about Trump's collusion with Russia or whatever the big topics were at the time during the election. Gas wasn't an issue, so they weren't going to talk about it um, because Americans were so short-sighted in what we do, right? Like the day when Obama was elected, the first day he was there, he was getting blamed for something. The first day Trump was elected, he was getting blamed for something. So it's just people are so short-sighted and want to see the problem as it stands. Um, but we've seen this. We've seen this cycle. When Bush left office, gas was $4.35 or whatever was the average after the wars, and he had to pay for it. And Obama had to try to restore that. He didn't do a lot of what he said he would. And then Trump came in, and that part was taken care of, but other parts weren't. And now it's just a cycle that we always see, that we go into this crazy deficit with Republicans, but a Democrat takes the mess and tries to fix it, but never has a chance to, because at every step of the way, around midterms, Republicans take over the House and they block everything. I mean, everything
Well, you
that's
need
come
to,
to light.
okay. You need to ask yourself the point you just made. You said Democrats come in and clear everything, and then Republicans take over the House after the midterms and mess it all up. The question I would ask you is, why do the liberals keep losing the midterms? Clearly, they're doing something wrong if the public keeps voting folks out during the midterms. If you're doing a
Right.
great job, you don't lose in the midterms.
It's not so much that I think it's complicit, right? We become complacent, not complicit. We become complacent. We got Obama and everything was good, and we just don't show up to the polls. And when Democrats show up to the polls, Democrats win popular elections.
True.
Just a fact.
Now that's true. That's true. That is
So
true.
we
I,
fell asleep at the wheel, right? And that's what it
well,
is.
I don't think we fell asleep at the wheel. I think Bernie Sanders is our biggest problem with that. Bernie Sanders, very similar to Ross Perot in the 90s, Bernie Sanders stepped up and divided the party, and it gave Trump the entrance into the White House. If Bernie Sanders did not exist in the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton would have won, and you would not have the stuff you're talking about in regards to, well, not this, the fuel prices I can't say, but you would have had a Hillary Clinton presidency. You would certainly have Roe versus Wade and all of that stuff. But I would probably blame the Bernie folks more than anybody else for what you guys are talking about.
Well, I actually blame Hillary more than Bernie, and I'm more of a Bernie guy, so I'll just state that from the get-go. You know, I'm progressive, so I don't think the liberals are left enough for me, right? Because I think we need universal health care and stuff like that. But what happened, and like I said, I'm a member of the Democratic Veterans Caucus, so when we were trying to nominate Bernie Sanders, a lot of us were booted out before the votes were casted because they wanted Hillary. And a lot of our representatives, I personally had it out with them in arguments, Ben Ray Lujan and a couple guys here in New Mexico, because they went and nominated Hillary when the popular vote was for Bernie. The same thing happened with Joe Biden and Bernie. Bernie was whipping him, remember that? And then they had a Super Tuesday, and all of a sudden, a lot of stuff was blocked out in Nevada and different states. And what ended up happening is Biden took the seat. So when Trumpers say that the election's stolen and stuff, they weren't able to prove it. And I wish there was a way for them to prove it, but they didn't. But I know for a fact Tulsi Gabbard was one of them that called out Hillary Clinton and said that she was fixing stuff, and she got booted from her chair in the Democratic Party. So,
well, Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat, so that's why he had so much trouble. But unfortunately, I gotta step away because I gotta run to the game. So give me a second, folks. I'll be right back.
I don't know if that 2,000 mules was really proof. But it doesn't make sense to me. Like if the Democrats wanted to steal the election, wouldn't they have gone after Mitch McConnell and stuff at the same time? Wouldn't they have voted on those fake ballots against Mitch McConnell or whoever was there instead of just Trump? Like the president can only do so much, but if I were gonna cheat, I would go after the senators and the congressmen. I would, uh, or the representatives. I try to go after them than going for President Trump. If I were going to go at it, I would go at it that way. But it just doesn't make sense to me why they would just go after Trump and not the guys that are really important, that are really halting progress and the liberals' eyes, right? I just don't see that. So I'm reading through the comments. I just, but then again, if you look at how the GOP has changed things, and I was a Republican for Bush, I voted for Bush and whatnot, but the gerrymandering that goes on, the voter suppression, um, the Proud Boys going to polling places and intimidating voters. These are all stuff I've seen firsthand because I'm very engaged politically.
All right, let's try this again. All right, you guys are still here. Sorry about that. Sometimes you can't help when nature just calls. No. All right, let me see what's in here. Republicans won't even let Biden pass gas. You really think it's that bad? Well, like I said, folks, you got to understand politics that's the way politics operates. You find anything you can from the other side where they're caught slipping and you capitalize on it. I was a Democrat for 36 years. The party, what is it says? The party has gone too far left. Radicals are everywhere. I do believe the Democratic Party has went further left in recent years. So, but at the same time, you would have the same thing on the right. I mean, you got the Democratic Party is definitely further left than, say, Bill Clinton years. But then again, when folks are in there saying "fuck your feelings," clearly they're not necessarily in the middle either. So both sides have done that. And I see Defend 3740. Yeah, he said both parties. JFK was the last good Democrat. No, I don't buy that. I think that Bill Clinton was a good Democrat. I think the country was ran pretty darn well under Bill Clinton. You think Obama was really that bad? I think America did okay under Obama. I think Obama's presidency was a successful presidency. People thinking Biden stole the election is just sad. Like, seriously, they know it's not true. Theodore, they do not know it's not true. I think there are people who truly believe that. I really do believe people, if they had to bet the farm, if they only had one or two choices and they were going to lose everything they had to make a choice of whether it was legit or stolen. There's a lot of folks who would choose stolen. And there's nothing you're going to do to change their mind. And they still alive after Obama make it go, Yeah, I look at the Obama years. I look at the country when Obama was inaugurated in January of 2009. And I look at the way the country was when Trump got inaugurated in January of 2017. Obama's 8 years was in the middle of that. The country improved. In my opinion, there's no denying that the country got better from the time Obama got inaugurated in 2009 to what he left behind for Trump in 2017. The difficulty Trump had in repealing and replacing Obamacare, to me, is a perfect example. You've seen how hard it was for him to get rid of Obamacare. A lot of Trump supporters, a lot of MAGA, actually use the Affordable Care Act. 800 more, I can go live with you. Okay, TJS, I will follow you. I can't give you the entire 800, but I can get you down to 799. Hopefully you reach that. I wouldn't send you a follow, so good luck on that. Good luck on that. When did the right wingers loot cities last? If you want to suggest that the folks out rioting and looting are Democrats, you don't know politics. Most of those folks are either underage, felons who are not legally allowed to vote, or folks who would not cast the ballot anyway. Those are not registered liberals breaking into Best Buy at 1 o'clock in the morning. But it helps to demonize the Liberal Party by saying they are. But the folks that are out there actually committing crimes, rioting, and looting, they are not registered Democrats. And I don't think there's anything you're going to say to get me to believe that they are. The doists mean they are not leftists. Okay. Did they not have government classes when they was in high school? If they even went, in regards to folks out there committing felonies, rioting, and looting, a lot of them probably haven't even graduated from high school. Geofencing data shows who was out there. The geofencing, in regards to 2,000 Mules, because I'm fairly certain that's what you're talking about with Greg Phillips, the election expert on there with the True to Vote lady doing the geo tracking or whatever it was. First of all, and they also talked about the Black Lives Matter stuff you're talking about. I would need to see, and let me give it to you in a way you could understand. If I was to present some information from you and tell you that CNN told me this, and here's the information, or MSNBC, you wouldn't believe CNN or MSNBC, or you'd want to double check the information because you don't trust CNN or MSNBC. Obviously, Dinesh D'Souza leans right. There's no denying that he is not an unbiased source. Neither is True the Vote. So when they say that they purchased some data and they geo-tracked the data to come up with their information, I need to see where they got that data from. Is the data from an unbiased source? How do we know that was not tainted? Why should we just automatically take the word of Greg Phillips or whatever his name was and the True to Vote lady in the movie documentary 2000 Mules? We need to see where he got that data from, because that data could be biased. The documentary 2000 Mules works so well because the folks who are the primary audience that's watching it already believes the message that they're portraying anyway. But if you ask significant questions, a lot of the stuff that's being presented in the documentary does not hold up. And the first question would be, can we see where you got that data to be for certain that the data itself was not unbiased? And the second thing, obviously, is the notion that 100% of the ballots being cast under suspicion were all for President Biden. There's just no way to know that. You got folks hanging around ballot boxes at 3 a.m. with 100 ballots in their hand. Looks suspect as hell. I'm in the same camp with you on that. It does not look right. But how do you know some of those are not checked off for Trump? How do you know that? We're just going to assume that Republicans are innocent and Democrats cheat. 70, what was it? How many million voted for Trump? 74 million or whatever. 100% of them were honest. It was only the liberals that cheat. And folks believe that. I'm over it. Biden won, America lost. Okay, you can make that point. Depends on what your social tenets are. Then left media should invite him and debate him to prove that he's wrong. Exactly. User 766. Well, in reality, what Dinesh D'Souza should have done was brought in maybe 100 conservatives, 100 Trump supporters, MAGA, whatever, brought in 100 liberals. Him, Dinesh D'Souza, the True to Vote woman, and Greg Phillips, the election expert, could have sat at a table in front of the audience. Behind them could have been a big, huge screen, showed the movie, let them all screen the movie, and then after the movie, the audience, like in town hall fashion, could have asked Dinesh D'Souza and Greg Phillips and the True to Vote woman questions. And the number one question first would be, well, where did you get this data from? You got to present this stuff, because if you were to present this case in court, all of this stuff has to be analyzed. You're not going to get benefit of the doubt on anything. You're claiming that a guy stole the presidency. You got to present information for this stuff. The documentary does not do that. Also, I would ask, you went to Atlanta, you went to Detroit, you went to Philadelphia, you went to Milwaukee, you went to Phoenix, you went to all the predominantly urban Democratic cities to check for fraud. What happened in Conyers, Georgia? What happened in upstate Wisconsin? Did you go there where it's predominantly Republicans? Did you check for any cheating there? No, you only went to areas that were Democrat. So if there was cheating in Republican areas, it would have gotten under your radar because you never checked those areas. All of this would come out if you were to analyze that film in a court of law somewhere. You can believe the film all day you want, and there's a lot of legitimate points the film makes, but it is an incomplete investigation is what I'm saying. If you don't cheat, you don't want it bad enough, sister. Did he really say that? This Dims Mafia fix. You're suggesting that Trump gave the quote, if you don't cheat, you don't want it bad enough. I'm assuming he never said that. It's been proven in Nevada. Why did you have to stand over 100 yards away to view the voting accuracy? I did see what they were doing in Nevada, but once again, I'll ask you the question, user 4714. If you believe that folks are cheating because they won't let the ballot people will not let you stand close enough, so you believe they're cheating, the question I have to ask is, how do you know they're cheating for Biden? How do you know they're not checking off Trump there and they don't want you to see it? You're automatically assuming that Republicans are honest and liberals are dishonest. What is that based on? That's the point I'm trying to make. I think 2000 Mules presented a decent case that it looks like some voter impropriety took place. Where they lost me is acting as though only Democrats were cheating. There's just no way to know that at all. Harris can present the facts in court. He is good at being passionately inaccurate. Okay. 55,000 mules were out there. It could be 1,000,000 mules, but you need to tell me why 100% of the mules were pro-Democrat. How can you prove that? Now, if you could get a bunch of mules and they would flip and tell you, yeah, I got this money from the Democratic National Convention or something, that would be different. And in the movie or documentary, 2,000 Mules, they did have one of the women, I think she was a mule or something. She was blackened out for her to remain anonymous. And she gave her little spiel, and even she did not blame it on the Democrats. She blamed it on the cartel. So there is no one in the movie that's presenting evidence to suggest that 100% of the cheating was Democrat. The only person doing that was Dinesh D'Souza. And he made a statement, and I actually wrote it down in my notes. As the movie ended, he was walking towards what looked like the Capitol building, and he stated, Democrats conceived the heist, they funded it, organized it, and carried it out. They stole the election. Oddly enough, none of his experts that he had on the program said that. And he chose to say that when he was around none of his experts. Even Greg Phillips may have said, listen, the geo-tracking shows this or this or this, but it doesn't show you that it's Democrats only to make that kind of statement. So Dinesh was very careful to make that statement when he was no longer around his experts, because that would have put Greg Phillips, who has also found fraud from Republicans in the past. So Greg Phillips does come across as credible. But Greg Phillips has found fraud on both sides of the aisle. Dinesh D'Souza waited till Greg Phillips was not around to suggest all the cheating was Democrat. My guess is Greg Phillips would probably not have agreed with that. It would probably be a good idea for some liberals to go out and interview Greg Phillips. They use the most ridiculous examples as mules. Perhaps, but I do think that they showed that some suspect looking shit took place. But it could be circumstantial as well. I mean, just because Trayvon Martin walks through your neighborhood in the middle of the night does not mean he's trying to rob anybody. He might just have a taste of some Skittles. Things can happen that look funny that actually are totally harmless. But, a guy showing up to a ballot box at 3 a.m. with a bunch of ballots in his hand, it looks extremely suspect. Do they have an excuse for it? I don't know. What I would say is that another thing 2,000 Mules could have done is went to the local media in those towns and said that, this, or Trump could have done this back in his day because he would have had access to the same video footage. Put it on the television and let the citizens of that area try to identify that person. You got their car, you got their plates on it. I mean, I took some screenshots. Let me see if I can find those, because I took several screenshots from that documentary. And that was the question I'm asking, is like, why the hell wouldn't they try to track some of these people down? You got video footage of the folks that's clear as day. Let's find out. Maybe they may have explanations for what you're accusing them of. But they didn't do that. They didn't do any of that. And I wonder why. Their seniors. I don't believe people voted for a bad economy. Trump greatest economy. Gary Crew, no, I don't believe people voted for a bad economy either. But I don't believe people voted for insults and making fun of disabled people and all that stuff either. There's plenty of MAGA folks. This is a MAGA-friendly zone. I make it clear. My preferred audience is MAGA. I talk to MAGA folks all day who believe Trump is the best president ever, and they do not favor his insults and tweets. They didn't vote for that shit either. They voted for Trump. They don't even want it. So, yeah, we can talk about Biden performing poorly, and I'm not disagreeing with that in terms of the economy, but there are folks out there now who voted for Trump, believe Trump did a great job, and are suggesting that DeSantis would be a better choice, simply because Trump won't keep his mouth shut. They voted for a great president and general. Name one legislation Trump passed to improve our economy. I'm a fan of him attacking China with the trade imbalances. I actually believe the wall would be beneficial to our economy because we are competing with folks who don't supposed to be here. Period. I mean, I strongly believe that. Now, I do believe he should go after Americans that hire him. But at the end of the day, with what is it, 12 million to 30 million illegals in the country, depending on who you ask, they're not all on welfare. A lot of them are actually working at companies and things like that. If those illegals were not here, those corporations would either go out of business or be forced to pay American wages. That would benefit us all. That would be more beneficial wages in the job market. I mean, there are things that Trump did. I'm not MAGA by any means. I didn't vote for Trump either time. But there's no way I'm gonna pretend like everything he did was bad. Let's see here. I'll put you back on for a minute. What happened, Lobo? Black Lives Matter leader arrested in Memphis for voter fraud. Okay, that's one dude. What are you trying to say? Trump tariffs raised inflation. Yeah, I'd have to look into. I mean, there's a case to be made. I'm sure you can spin it a certain way. We'd have to talk about that a little bit more in detail. German Shepherd Month. Biden got our SEAL Team 6 heroes murdered in 2011. 36 heroes and 13 Marines in Afghanistan. Biden wasn't president back then. He couldn't have done that on his own. What the hell just happened? You didn't name one. Okay, once again, you go name one Trump legislation passed to improve our economy. Well, everything from, even with the stimulus money, I believe that helped out our economy. I mean, there are tons of Trump. There's tons of things that came from Trump. Let me just put it this way. Look at how the economy was performing under Trump. He gets no credit for that at all. Period. He just inherited a great economy from Biden or from Obama. Didn't do anything and just rode the ways of Obama. Is that what you're suggesting? He did nothing at all. Huh? No wars or anything happening under this guy at all. Just great for no reason at all for him. I just can't buy that. I understand that you don't like Trump. That's fine. I'm totally okay with that. But what you're saying in regards to him not doing things to make the country better, if you're not liberal, you're not going to see that. For instance, him protecting the sanctity of life. I'm pro-choice. But that is something that he did to make the country better if you're pro-life. You're not pro-life. He's not going to come across as somebody who done things to make the country better in your eyes because he done it for a different constituency. You didn't vote for Trump. You don't want somebody in there like that. The people who voted for him, the people who wanted him in there are very happy with what he did. The ugly, not the handsome liberal. I get it every time. Trump is causing the next Great Depression. Wow. And what is Biden doing to stop it? I mean, Trump is not in office right now. And we're not in a depression right now. So if Trump's policies has led us down a road to the Great Depression, we're not in a Great Depression yet, and Biden is in office. So what is Biden doing to turn around the failures of Trump and make things better? Because if you look at how bad, quote unquote, following what you're saying, if Trump has sent us to a depression, let's look at how bad the economy was doing when Trump left office, based on your statement, and ask, since Biden took over after Trump, has Biden made it get better? Has Biden turned it around or even showed signs that it's turning around? What can Biden do, seeing it's so partisan? And that came from Ted Zorno. I don't know. Listen, and I'm not just here to beat the hell out of Biden because I voted for Biden. I don't know what he really could do, so to speak, because unfortunately, there's a large portion of the American voters that do not believe he should be in office. They don't believe he's there legitimately. And as long as he's dealing with that crowd, they're not going to favor him no matter what happens. So Biden may be in a situation where he really cannot win. If you believe that the guy stole the job, you're not going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt no matter what. And he's dealing with that. Now, that's not his fault. That portion is not his fault. However, not being able to even get his own Democratic Senate to support his legislation is his fault. Good example would be him trying to pass an the abortion bill he tried to pass a couple weeks ago. Obviously, Joe Manchin voted against it, and they were citing that what they were trying to pass actually won. It superseded Roe versus Wade. He didn't have to pass something that strongly. Just get something passed. That's what I'm talking about. Be able to rally your own troops. You're not going to get a lot of help from the Republican side. He's not able to rally the Democratic side. You got Democrats that are going against his key legislation, like the George Floyd bill and things like that. That's internal. That's not Republican related. Internally, he's not succeeding at rallying his own troops. You think 150 million Americans voted in the presidential election. I came from whatever, I can't think of the name there, but I'll just say this in regards to how could Biden had ever won more votes than the first black president or whatever the case may be. I'm in the Midwest. I don't deal with ballots. I'm obviously not a judge. I'm not a governor of a state. I'm just a guy on the little corner of social media on TikTok, and I work in the medical industry. Who am I to tell the governor of Georgia, your election results are incorrect? I'm over 1,000 miles away from Georgia. I'm not a judge. The judges in that state agreed with the governor. The governor's Republican. The ballot officials in that state agreed with the governor, and they agree with the judge. How can I tell them from 1,000 miles away they don't know what the hell they're talking about? If they say that many people in their state voted for Biden, I got to go with that. They've checked and rechecked. Same thing in Arizona. Same thing in Wisconsin. Same thing in Pennsylvania. They've checked and rechecked. I'm not in those states. It's not my place to tell them. I know more about what's going on in your state and what's going on with your votes, even though I've never seen any of them, than you do. That doesn't make any sense. If they counted their votes in these different states, and not only that, but remember, the votes are not just coming in from states, they're coming in from individual counties. So there's all sorts of little tiny checks and balances you can do to figure out if the number that state gave is their total number. So when you ask, did Biden get 74 million votes or whatever the case may be, or happened, or you asked, did 150 million people vote in the election? I gotta go with what the professionals are saying on all of those different levels. I'm not involved in it. I'm not involved. Now, does some of it look suspect? Maybe. I look at the lack of enthusiasm for Biden, and you wonder, well, how could he have won? Well, you got to look at the amount of dislike towards Trump. But I'm not a ballot official, so it's not my place to tell somebody who is working in that arena that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. More people voted against Trump, not Biden. True. I believe that most of the liberals that voted for Biden were casting a ballot against Trump. I don't believe there were hardly anyone that was in favor of Biden. When I talk to liberals, the few that come on here, I even asked them, do you think we could have put together a better candidate than Biden? Overwhelmingly, the answer is yeah. No one really had a lot of enthusiasm about President Biden. They just hated Trump that much. Trump would not stop talking. And I talked to my MAGA audience. You guys loved the Pocahontas and the crazy Bernies and the Sleepy Joe. You guys loved that stuff. You were essentially the relative that was sneaking cigarettes into your relative's hospital room and allowing him to smoke knowing he was dying of cancer. By cheering on the rhetoric and the insults and things like that, yeah, you were providing your sick relative that's in the hospital with cancer, you were sneaking in cigarettes to him, because that's ultimately what destroyed Trump's chances at re-election, is that type of stuff that you guys were cheering on. All these people want Trump to win, but don't live in states that matter. Your vote is useless. I won't say that the vote is useless, but I do get your point that if you live in California, for instance, and you vote liberal, you just, it's going to be liberal anyway. I understand your point, but I don't know, because there's other races that matter to Trump. Like, for instance, Liz Cheney is not a Trump fan, even though she lives in a state that's absolutely going to go for Trump if he runs again. But the down ballot race, Trump needs Liz Cheney to be taken out of office. If Trump wins in 2024, it will not help his campaign if Liz Cheney wins with him. Now, she's not running again, but you get the point, because there's other Liz Cheney types out there. The Mitt Romneys and Mitch McConnells, those type of folks. I believe Mike Pence, who's not in politics right now, is probably another anti-Trump kind of person. So even if you're in a state that's all red or all blue, there still can be issues, because Joe Manchin, for instance, in West Virginia is not a friend to the Biden administration. We probably be damn near just as well off with a Republican win in that state. He essentially might as well be Republican. Dude, why do you Republicans strive on conspiracy theories? I'm not a Republican, so I don't know. What do you think of Candace Owens, MG2? I think she's an intelligent woman. I think she's really good at being a talking head, or being a Republican talking head, or a Republican commentator. As an African American, I don't like the idea that she comes from a 100% negative aspect. Anything she covers in regards to African Americans is overwhelmingly negative. Even with George Floyd, she gave a huge when that case was in its prime, before Derek Chauvin had been convicted and all of that. She did a video where she spent a couple minutes saying, yeah, Derek Chauvin was wrong and he should be punished. And she spent like 80% of the video attacking George Floyd in his criminal record and all of that. Now, this guy's dead. So you're making a video about stuff he did 10, 15, 20 years ago. He's dead. He served time for that stuff already. She has a documentary coming out now. And it's called, I think, Who is the Real George Floyd, or something like that. And once again, she is attacking George Floyd. Why? He's dead. Let the guy go. He's dead. I mean, she's given more criticism to George Floyd than she did the guy that killed him. And like someone else mentioned in the comments, she has something coming out about attacking Black Lives Matter. If you listen to Candace Owens, and she's talking about African Americans, you can almost be certain it's something negative about that African American. Not saying that she's always wrong. She's often right about stuff sometimes, but if I find a Caucasian and all they do is paint negative pictures of Caucasians, white folks are not going to like them either. Doesn't matter if it's always, it could be 100% correct, but no one is going to support someone that only speaks in negatives about them. Like MG, you're saying she speaks truth. That's fine. I could sit here and talk about white folks who lynched blacks, white folks who enslaved, and don't say anything good about any white person at all. Just say do nothing but point out all of the negative white people throughout history. You wouldn't like me doing that. That's what she does. She finds the negative African Americans, and that's what her stories are about. So it shouldn't surprise anyone why African Americans do not like her. And when you look at her audience, look where she's doing it to. You really want to have a Caucasian go to the projects, go to the hood, and just talk about white people that have done blacks wrong all day, every day. Just every day, this is a white person standing in the hood telling black people about bad white folks. That's kind of what she does. Once you see what the left has done, you can't unsee it, says Steve Chart. Well, I can show you plenty of things the right has done that you can't unsee either. I mean, including watching that plus-size woman fly into the air in Charlottesville as that guy ran over with a car. So, I mean, I could point to things that the right has done as well. Geodata is not conspiracy theory. The agency can triangulate a citizen within 6 inches of accuracy. Well, you're correct. Geodata is not a conspiracy, but the people collecting the geodata could be involved in a conspiracy. If they show, for instance, someone that was coming from a right-wing neighborhood and going into the hood or going into a black neighborhood and dropping off ballots, they could deliberately take that portion of the data out. They showed you all of those different dots to show where people went. How do we know some dots were not omitted? You need to know the source of the geodata. There's no way to know if that geodata was complete or not. There's no way to know if it was altered or not. You do not know. I could show you the data from Dominion voting machines and tell you data doesn't lie. You wouldn't trust that data because you think the Dominion machines have been altered. Well, I could have the same effect or the same belief in regards to the data presented in that film. Let's see here. The phone call, that phone call was after people voted. What phone call are you talking about? That's how she gets paid. That is true, Anthony Smith. She's a very intelligent woman. I think Candace Owens is very intelligent. She's found a niche market, and it's making her a lot of money. That's fine. But she is making that money on the backs of African Americans. For folks who have, and this is how racism or intolerance or stereotypes develop. It's generally from people who have no communications or affiliation with folks of the other side. So the only way you develop an opinion of the other side is from folks who tell you about it. The media, for instance, and she is media. If, like, say, for instance, if you're white and you do not have any black friends, you don't regularly go into black neighborhoods or any of that, and you watch Candace Owens and she's constantly painting negative pictures of African Americans, and you believe her, then you're going to probably have a negative stereotype of black people because you don't have anything else to go on. You're just going on her, or if you look at her audience, it's predominantly those type of people, folks who do not have a lot of affiliation with the African American community. So I think that she's doing the African American community an injustice by doing that, because there are plenty of positive stories you could tell on the African American community. We have astronauts, we have doctors, we have Ben Carlson types that are successful brain surgeons. Every semester, there are colleges letting out hundreds, thousands of African Americans with college degrees. She doesn't cover any of that. She's covering high school dropouts, rioters and looters, folks who are killing people. It's just all negative. It's all negative. How could I possibly champion something like that? Trump 2024. Hannibal the Cannibal. We'll see about 2024, but you have a good chance. You have to speak on my comments many times. Why are you the meal, Candace Owens? I don't get that. You have spoke on my comments. Your wording is off on that, user 4714. You have speak on my comments many times. Why are you the meal, Candace Owens? I don't get what you're saying there. He isn't that harmful. Who? I'm talking about Candace Owens. Are you saying she isn't that harmful? You are the male Candace Owens for the Democrats. And how are you suggesting that? I speak positively of both sides all the time. I've given you plenty of examples of things that I think are positive about Trump and things that are negative about Trump. Candace Owens doesn't give you anything that is positive about African Americans. It's all negative. Period. It's all negative. I let liberals on. I make it clear my preferred audience is MAGA, but I don't run from any liberals. Candace Owens does not operate in the same way, so I don't get how you would try to make the correlation. They just censored me from you. How so? Ultra MAGA now depends. Ultra MAGA now, not Republicans. Well, Ted Zero, Trump came in from day one attempting to change the party, so that's why the established Republicans do not like him, because he is not a Republican. Trump himself is the rhino. I get the MAGA folks like to call everybody else a rhino, but those folks, Mitch McConnell's, Mitt Romney's, Liz Cheney's, those folks have been representing the Republican Party since Trump was still calling himself a Democrat. But he comes in not being a typical politician, no political experience, and suddenly he's calling everybody a rhino. No, you're the rhino. You're the one that's a Republican in name only. You became a Republican so you could get access to the Republican coffers to run. You're the Republican in name only. We've been here our entire lives. But because there is a lot of loyalty to Trump, folks actually believe that the ones who've been there in the trenches for the Republican Party for decades are the rhinos, and this new guy is somehow the genuine Republican. It doesn't make any sense. Trump is the Trump Party. He should have ran as an independent. He is not a Democrat. Trump is independent of himself. Slick ass Rick, I like that. Trump is not a Republican. He is all about the money. Brandon his MAGA. Wow. Some liberal says there are very good people on both sides. Depending on the issue, Magoro, there are very good people on both sides of any issue. Depends on the issue. Now, obviously, slavery or Nazism. No, I'm not going to say no crazy shit like that. But political issues. Most of the political issues concerning the United States, I think there are good people that have viewpoints on both sides. But you give me an issue and I'll let you know and I'll explain it to you. Maybe Speaker of the House, remember. Okay. Tell me how I can go live with you. I don't, something, you have to send an invite at the bottom down there, something that says, if you send it down there, it gives me the cue that you want to go live. One thing you will never see on this program is me having the versus battles. Because that's when anybody comes in here that's not talking in a political sphere and you see who can win or what. That's some childish shit. You won't see me do that in here. But folks who want to go live and actually communicate, I will engage with anyone who wants to talk politics or world issues or current topics. So that's kind of how I believe is done. Who comes up with these negative labeling codes? People with an agenda. Defend 3747. Who comes up with these negative labeling name codes? Well, Trump has been widely successful in branding people, those names, the Sleepy Joes or the Crazy Bernies, Nervous Nancys. It's been very successful for him. And as a result, he's going to continue doing it. The same thing he's had somewhat success with saying the election was not held properly, which is why he's trying to use the same spiel in Pennsylvania, telling Dr. Oz to step up and claim victory, even though the votes are still being counted, and telling him Trump has already claimed that there are GOP candidates in Pennsylvania that are cheating. Now, mind you, none of the GOP candidates running for Senate in Pennsylvania are claiming that there's cheating. But here's Trump coming from Mar-a-Lago, well over 1,000 miles away, saying that there's cheating there. So what has been successful once usually will be successful again. So I guess he's assuming if I had enough support for the election, the national election being stolen, maybe it'll work in Pennsylvania. Fortunately, Dr. Oz has not stepped up and tried to claim that the election was fraudulent or claim that he won before the votes are counted. But Trump is telling him to do that. Funny how Republicans are scared of dangerous Sleepy Joe. They're not. I don't think they're scared of him or unapologetic. Good evening to you or good morning to you. I don't think they're scared of Biden. Why would you be scared of him? His numbers are terrible right now. To me, if I was a Republican, what would scare me is the rolling back of Roe versus Wade. The Supreme Court deciding to do that shit right before the midterms. That is what would scare me as a Republican. I would be in love with Joe Biden because Joe Biden is making the Republicans look more desirable. Rolling back Roe versus Wade is doing the opposite. So that's the way I would look at it. Trump hates Governor Kemp because he told the truth. That is true. That is true. And he's going against Governor Kemp. But Mike Pence is down there going in favor of Governor Kemp. I think it would look better if Oz would wait on the results. Gary Cruz, 6'9", I agree with you 100%. And I would also say it further discredits Trump's claims by telling Dr. Oz to do that. Because it makes it look like if you'll step up willy-nilly with no evidence and say that there's cheating in this Pennsylvania Senate race, maybe you'll do it somewhere else. Maybe you've done it before somewhere else. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done that. Thank goodness Dr. Oz is smart enough not to take that advice. Pence backs Kemp. That is true. I go fishing with my Republican neighbors. They just can't believe I voted for Biden. We joke about it. I don't know. Dim's Mafia figure. There are legitimate reasons to vote for either party. Being a talking head, so to speak, on social media and talking to right wingers all day, I get folks all day saying, "How could anybody vote for Biden?" Well, you need to know what a person's social issues are. If you live in Chicago somewhere or St. Louis or somewhere, and you truly believe in some type of gun legislation, why would you vote Republican? I mean, if you believe the minimum wage should be raised to $15 an hour, why would you vote Republican? I mean, would it make any sense to vote Republican at all if you want a minimum wage increase? If you believe marijuana should be legalized, why would you vote Republican? There are a lot of legitimate reasons to vote Democrat. Biden is a socialist communist. Exactly. We talked about that earlier in the broadcast about left-wingers calling everybody racist. That's a perfect example of the opposite. Paul Jott said Biden is a socialist communist. There's no evidence of that. No evidence at all of that. Kelly Kemp is telling me to go to bed. I'm going to take your advice. I'll give you guys 10 more minutes, and I will do exactly what Kelly Kemp said. Democrat Party was the party of KKK. How can you vote for them? User 4714. Good question. Why would you vote for the party that was the party of the KKK? Well, I could tell you that President Trump said he identified it as a Democrat. Why are you voting for him? Because the Democratic Party is what you're suggesting is the party of the KKK. Well, then that means that Trump, when he was identifying as a Democrat, was in support of the KKK. Why are you voting for him? I mean, just taking your own question and throwing it back at you. I think the handsome liberal is 3/4 of the way to Republican. If we were talking during the Obama years, you wouldn't think that. There's a lot of liberals that are not happy with the way Biden is running the country. I'm liberal. I lean left on a lot of social issues, but I also care what my take-home pay, what I'm paying at the pump, and inflation rates. If the economy was doing better, you probably wouldn't be saying that. Tell me how I can bet you a one-on-one. I told you you had to send an invite down at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, user 4714. I wish Biden was a communist. Why would you say that, Hella Espresso? Why? This is not a good forum to discuss politics. How about Twitter now that people aren't being censored? I've never really used Twitter. Can you speak live and things like that on Twitter? I don't know how Twitter works exactly. Let me know. Looking out for you. Thank you, Kelly Kemp. Oh my God, 50 years of it, man. Okay. Let me scroll forward. Discuss politics on Twitter since conservatives would no longer be canceled. I don't believe that's going to hold. Jim, what is it called? Jim Toho. I was going to do a show on that in the future in regards to will Elon Musk buy Twitter was what I was going to name it. And the reason I'm saying is because I believe he put about 1/4 of his wealth. Now, obviously, the guy is generationally set for life, but he still doesn't want to lose money. I believe he spent about 1/4 of his wealth on Twitter. Keep in mind, MySpace used to be the shit, and it's gone. A social media platform can disappear. The reason that he expects Twitter to survive is because he's going to charge, I believe they want to charge $3 or $5 a month or something on Twitter, because they already know the advertising revenue is going to essentially dry up. So the question is, can you sustain a decent audience charging people when there's so many platforms out here for free? Do you really want free speech so much that you'll pay a few extra bucks just to say a few words that are banned? Because for the most part, on Twitter, on TikTok and these platforms, you have about 95% free speech. Are you really willing to pay $3 or $4 to have maybe you get to use the N-word, or maybe you get to fly Confederate flags, or maybe you get to show crazy pictures of Nancy Pelosi? You really willing to pay money for that? And also keep in mind, Elon Musk does not just own Twitter. He's sending folks to space. He has those electric cars. You talk about cancel culture. If Elon Musk completely opens up Twitter and allows folks to say whatever the hell they want, and I know how MAGA talks. I talked to you guys on my forum, so I know what you guys say. The liberals are going to start targeting his other businesses for cancel culture. Is he okay with that? Because that's guaranteed to happen. If you want to open up Twitter and folks are in there saying all kinds of crazy shit, the liberals are going to be outside protesting in front of Tesla and all of that. So this could be costly to Elon Musk at the end of the day. So remember, he has not made that purchase yet. It would not surprise me if he's rethinking it. Bro, do you really think that's what's going to happen if Twitter is bought out? What does I say? CLK all day. No, I'm simply saying if you have a forum where folks are 100% allowed to say whatever the hell they want, that will happen. Will Elon Musk allow that? I don't know. But he's saying he's for free speech. He's saying he's for 100% free speech. If you give 100% free speech, you will have folks doing that. I've made it clear on this particular broadcast, even though I only have a few people on, between 1 and 600 people, depending on when you're here, I'm totally for free speech. I had a guy yesterday that threw out the N-word and got himself banned in the forum. If I expanded it, I would get more. So if you do what Elon Musk is talking about, yeah, that stuff will happen. My guess is he would try it. And if it would quickly find out that either all of his viewers are on one side of the aisle or his other businesses are starting to suffer because of it. We'll see. I would not be surprised if Elon Musk announces that he decided not to buy Twitter. I really would. Anyway, folks, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up as Kelly Kemp told me to. And go take a lay down. 7 p.m. Central is when I'm normally here. I do enjoy you guys, as always. Feel free to follow the channel. 25K on the likes. I see that, TJS. I do appreciate that. It's your boy, Tim, the Handsome Liberal. Hope to catch you guys a little bit later.